whoops, I was just looking at the time. It's 7:03 p.m. on Thursday, January 19th, and I'll call the Finance Committee meeting to order. I have with me in the room from the Finance Committee, Dean Nahadas, Maury Creighton, myself, Sarah Melish, and Andy Olderman. And I have via Zoom from the Finance Committee, Mike Pratt. I also have in the room with me from the DPW, Nate DeRogers and Chuck Dam. And I have Andrea Mainville, the accountant, with us via Zoom, and Gail Hunter is via Zoom taking minutes. With that, we'll start with the agenda. And the first item on the agenda is to review the fiscal year 24 budget for the DPW and facilities, both the operating and the capital budgets. So I thought we might start with Chuck and Nate. Are there any things of particular concern you want to raise our awareness of?
So I guess I'll just say, it's a pretty standard budget in terms of salaries and expenses, but certainly willing to answer any questions. That you only focus on DPW general fund stuff right now, or take that with the enterprise funds as well?
We're going to do everything.
Yeah, but so
Yeah.
do you care, if it's all at once, or do you want to do,
No, I think
separate?
what we would like to do is kind of go through the budget book. What our hope is that we can vote on your budget tonight. That's our goal.
Yep.
Somehow I lost my pen.
One right there. Yeah, right.
Oh, there it is.
Under your glasses, that's why. Hiding in plain sight.
Okay. So
Yeah, I guess, starting in the budget book, I don't know what page you guys.
I'm on 120.
20, yeah, so, starting at 120, you see the salaries, you see our normal operating expenses. I don't think anything looks too out of the ordinary. I did kind of consolidate some of the, 2.5 in the, bottom line, was at the time I made this budget, fuel prices were, $5 a gallon, so that's why that looks higher, compared to everything else, but it was kind of just trying to zoom in on areas where we were expecting larger than 2.5 increases versus areas where I could, count on keeping things, under control. So that's why it looks like that.
yeah, and your training budget's higher.
Yeah, I think that was
Just like $300.
I'm just looking.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
6.7%, but
I know.
$300, you're right. But you didn't use any in 2022. So what type of
That's
training
odd.
do you have?
So there, I don't have anything scheduled necessarily. There's always some stuff. There is talk amongst, I go to a Essex County Highway Director meeting monthly, and there is talk right now about sharing services for CDL trainings, which is something that we don't have the ability to do in-house. So that's something that's out there. There's also the town tree warden. We've always talked about bringing that in-house. So that would be, they only do the town tree warden training every other year. It's a state, arborist program. So, that's something that could potentially happen in the next fiscal year if we wanted, but so nothing earmarked, but there are a couple of things out there that are in the ideas pipeline at this point.
Would that
In FY22, we had the Maya training grant, so we were able to utilize that for quite a bit of training for the guys.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was the OSHA stuff.
Yeah, all the OSHA stuff.
Is Tom Henderson the tree warden?
He's currently the town tree warden.
I don't see him on the man. Is he under DPW or not?
So currently he just has a annual stipend. And so I think we take that out of the tree maintenance account line. It's not under salaries, it's just under an expense.
Yeah, okay. I was wondering if that tree maintenance was part of the Friends of Manchester Tree stuff, or is it just storm patrol cleanup?
So the bulk of it actually ends up being storm patrol cleanup and whatnot, but we do have scheduled takedowns and stuff like that as well that comes out of that. The Friends of Trees usually do their own fundraising for planting town trees around town. They coordinate with us, but we don't generally pay for it out of that line unless there's some sort of extenuating circumstance, like we, promised that we would do it as in conjunction with one of our, construction projects or something like that.
But haven't you had an uptick in trees being taken down? Maybe it's not by you, maybe it's by a third party due to the increase in the number of tree hearings under the new tree policy.
Yeah, so we haven't tracked that necessarily against the town tree policy, but we do expect that we will have more. We don't do the takedown, we pay a third party, so we have a tree contract.
With
Right now,
Pecora.
it's with Sequoia, yep, who's the local company, but
And so,
there's our welcome to bid.
so that's under the tree maintenance line?
Yep.
Okay,
And you see the big jump from 2021 to the rest of them. We doubled it. From that.
yeah, and last
Yeah,
year,
we were getting very far behind back then, so that's.
Yes, no, we
it's,
were.
Push from.
The trees look a lot
trees that
better.
are-
Okay. I had a question on what the professional services, what is that? That's not engineering plans and stuff, is it, or?
Sometimes we supplement it with that, but normally I would say, it's everything from putting advertisements in the papers for any of our projects or bids to police details for stuff that comes up that we have to have police details for. That we pay out of DPW budget, that comes from professional services, things like that. If we do a small one-off, we have a couple on-call consultants for, just small studies, just at like a intersection scale or something like that, but certainly none of our
Okay,
bigger, school street projects or none of that is coming out.
right. I was gonna say it seems small. But
Yeah.
Just curious, Chuck and Nate, we've been talking with public safety about maintaining vehicles. Do you guys do that within your group, or do you farm it all out, or where is that currently? And ideally, where would you like to see that go? What's your
yeah.
thoughts on that?
So we have a on-staff mechanic under vehicle equipment repairs and maintenance. That's the budget that we take those repairs out of. Obviously, the salary for the mechanic is under the salaries, but so currently that's where that comes out of, and that's just DPW equipment and vehicles, not police or fire.
Yeah.
He actually, I think, needs a special certification if he were to do fire apparatus, which he does not have.
Okay.
So that's why we don't do them. We do occasional oil changes and brake jobs, tire rotation, stuff like that for police. If we need materials, so brake pads or whatever, oil, the police have their budget for, kind of paying for that, but we, do the work. I'd say, a lot of, it's not covered under this, but we have a similar line under snow. So, when we're doing actual works on the plows or, the strobe lights or stuff like that during plow operations,
Right.
that gets taken out of the snow budget, not this budget. I would say in the last few years, the major hits for the vehicle repairs have actually been our bigger equipment. So the front end loader and the backhoe have had, 5-figure, work done.
Yeah.
And that's, takes up the most of it. And then the rest of it is keeping up with tires, brakes, oil
Is
changes.
that just sort of normal wear and tear, or is that things like seals that go and then lead to bigger problems and then?
Yeah, I mean, it's both,
Like
but yeah,
escalates,
we had that issue as well. Trying to think of an example. So a few years ago, got the brand new sidewalk tractor. That obviously is not, on the road in the summer, so it sits outside, and there were definitely things that got seized up over the summer that we needed to take care of, expected for that piece of equipment. So that's not uncommon.
Now, last year, there was discussion of a shelter for some of that stuff. Is that progressing at all? Or?
It is, well, slowly. So I wanted to get that underway before winter broke, but I didn't get there.
Okay.
So we do have a token budget for, it's not token, I should say. We have a capital line for fabric top structure type building. What I was hoping is the reason we got that in the budget was we had a building that I condemned basically, and we demolished a couple of years ago. It fell, barn door fell off of it. And it was not worth saving. So I wanted to basically in that same footprint get a fabric building, but the money that we had to set aside for the fabric building versus the footprint didn't quite match up. And so I needed one of the vendors to kind of work with me on, you know, the size and stuff, and we just, in the back and forth, we just lost it. So it didn't happen for this winter, but it's definitely on my short.
Could buy on one, to put 3 boats in there too.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the capital items that's been carried forward for a year or so.
Well, it was only in this year's budget, it wasn't in last year's budget. But
Okay, the 100,000.
I didn't get to.
Okay, okay,
Before this.
Okay.
you know, winter.
okay.
So does that go to the rain barrel and then we have to budget it, or is it, it's?
No,
there?
no, it's,
I think
that's one of the things that Andrea sent us today.
Okay,
So it's one of the items that's been carried over.
okay, yeah,
And so this is one where it makes sense to carry it over if he's actively
Yeah,
working
yeah.
on it. So it's not like it's a dead project.
Nope.
And sort of a question maybe for Andrea, how long can we carry these things over? I mean, is it pretty indefinite, or do we have auditor issues, like if you go past 2 or 3 years or something?
No, there's no issue with carrying them over indefinitely. The only time that you run into issues is if you borrow. You only have a certain amount of time to spend it if you have a bond authorization.
Great.
And we have a whole bunch of projects with carryover that I thought we'd just kind of hit when we do the capital piece,
Sure.
just to confirm.
Sure, can I just mention one thing about the capital that I sent over? So like that 100,000, that was in for this year's budget. If it came out, if any of the capital projects came out of free cash, those were recorded in the prior fiscal year. So they would have been recorded in like April of 2022.
Oh,
So like they kind of just started. So it's not like they've been sitting there for over a year or anything like that.
But
So I guess
hey,
it'd be helpful to have that breaking out.
Andrea, on this item, I mean, this is probably hard to answer off the cuff, but like, how much, if you had to guess, is sitting in cash dollars, you know, in free cash, let's say, that's already been budgeted and allocated, and it's just, we just haven't got around to spending it?
3.4 million.
Yeah, I was
How
gonna
much?
say all the carry forward.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
that's not right. The carry forward is 3.2 million.
Yes.
3.2? Wow, okay.
That's what, and that, she sent that out late this afternoon. And I thought we'd go through the DPW items when we get to capital, and then with each budget as we get to it, we'll kind of go through them with the budget people to kind of see if the stuff can be released or not.
Yeah, that's a big number, so, yeah.
Big number, yes.
Nate and I are usually pretty good at spending money, so.
Yeah, and that was actually a current budgeted, I mean, that was in this year as the town hall generator.
Yep.
Which I'm assuming,
I had a question on that one. The library wants a generator too. Can the generator, would it be more efficient to have one for both? Since they're- Have you looked at
Maybe a
that?
lot more engineering wise to figure out how we, get the power over there, distribute it. I think you'd probably have to upsize this one a fair bit to, do that load as well. The issue we're seeing with generators is the larger you get in the generators, the longer the lead time. So we're kind of in that zone right now where we are really not affected too bad. But I think not knowing the specifics of what size we would need to get to support the 2 loads,
Right.
I'd be concerned about that.
Well, is the town hall one on order? Or-
Not yet, no.
Okay, so
Is it gonna go back in more or less the same location?
I think so. There's not a lot of real estate around town hall to really accommodate.
makes me nervous with the sandbags in front of it.
Yeah.
I was thinking of the hill by the church.
Elevate it more, to raise it, and we were actually just had the Woods Hole group here.
Oh, yeah.
Doing the flood elevations today, so hearing some of that information is
The library's-
eye-opening.
Yeah.
The library's serious about that. I feel like a battery would be enough for their load, no?
Depends on the season, so, we're supporting AC through the heat pumps in the summer.
I thought it was in relation to flooding. So like, pumps.
Oh, to keep the
Yeah,
the humidity down and to have the air.
Dehumidification.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
and And then the sump pumps in the basement. we wanna
Yeah.
Keep those going as well.
Right,
That's all a small enough load.
No, yeah, if it was just that, but I mean, we were kind of sizing it to, help support some of the HVAC load as well.
Yeah.
Is what I had talked about with them.
did you talk to the library?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're on board, because the
Yeah.
library's asking for 45,000 for flood proofing and generating.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I met with their trustees and went through
Good.
everything, all through those.
As long as everyone's on board, I feel better. Whenever you hear what the library's doing.
Did that become a priority over the bathroom renovation? Because they
No,
were
we're
really
talking about that now, Dean. Okay, that we'll talk with the library.
library.
Okay,
Good, okay,
I'm just trying to keep us on track.
very good.
So Mike Pratt, did you have any more questions on page 120?
No, I'm good, thanks.
Okay, anybody else have more questions on 120? Are we good to vote on page 120? So I need a motion to, we don't have account numbers. A motion to approve, I guess I can make the motion. To approve the Public Works Department expenses for the amount of $1,269,059.
Second,
Maury seconds. I'll take a roll call vote. Dean,
Yes,
Maury,
yes.
Andy,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes,
and Sarah votes yes.
Can can I ask one just kind of follow-up question? Hey Chuck, just at a super duper high level, total personnel, like where do we stand now and is that up or down from, a year or 2 years ago?
On DPW side, we're pretty flat. I mean, we did hire the new custodian that's under DPW now. We
Yep.
share with library, so you don't really see it all that much in the budget that was just approved, but we're pretty flat. We had a retirement last year in highway. We backfilled that recently. So this budget reflects that's change in,
Right, so what's the number? How many, like, is it 20, 30?
I would, no. So without counting me and Nate, 8.
No, throw you guys in there, so 10?
Including me and Nate?
Yeah.
Yep.
But is that water sewer? No, that's,
That's just the highway.
yeah,
Add 6 for water sewer, which includes the plant,
okay,
contract ops for the water plant.
so I'm
So.
up to 16,
18,
so 16 is the total?
yeah.
Plus we consume.
Okay, thanks.
Administrative, add another 2 for 18, but
What was that?
tell me where you want to draw the line.
I just want the total, the biggest number you can come up with.
Sounds like
18.
18, perfect, thank you.
Okay,
And nobody's sort of on the edge of retiring at the moment. Is this crew pretty solid for the next? couple of years?
We're still a little top heavy, but we've had 3 major retirements the last 2 years, so they're backfilled with those other guys now. But in the next 5 years, I think we'll probably lose another 2, maybe 3.
Mhm. And you're okay, you're finding people that you need for these roles.
The most recent round took me a little bit longer,
Yeah.
but seems like.
Seems like everybody's wrestling with that.
Yeah, there's an industry wide thing, especially when you need people with licenses for water and sewer.
Right.
next budget is snow and ice. In the amount of 202,000, and today we had asked Andrea to provide us with information on the 5-year average, which she provided to us this afternoon. And for people who didn't have a chance to look at it, the highest year was 2018, where we spent 207,117. The 5-year average is 158,940.15. This is one of the only budgets, or one of the few budgets, where we can deficit spend. And it's my understanding, in order to reduce it, we need to be able to demonstrate to the state that our average usage is less. What process do you have to go through, Andrea, if we decide to reduce it?
Every annually, I have to report to the DOR on it. I'll have to provide this documentation as well, and then see if they ask for anything further than that.
Because, you know, I was thinking that it might make sense to reduce it down to 160,000, which is just above the 5-year average.
I'd be in support of that.
I was thinking the same thing.
Because
Yeah.
Andrea, play it out. If we do lower it to 160, right? And then it ends up being 170, whatever.
Yep.
That's not the end of the world, right?
Right, yeah, no. No, we can do a year-end transfer, we could do a reserve fund transfer, we can raise it on the recap the following year.
Right,
So there's
right.
different options for it.
There's no like, I don't know, penalties from the state or anything, right?
No, nope.
Yeah.
They just want to make sure you're not like overtaxing people, so if we lower it.
Right, so I mean, to that end, we're actually going the right way if we go to lower it.
Wonder how much it was in 2015. Do you remember the big blizzard year?
I wasn't here in
Yeah.
2015, so I couldn't.
So I guess the question though, Andrea, is
That's the treatment level.
Mike's example was if we set it at 160 and it comes in at 170, that becomes like a reserve fund transfer or something like that. If we set it at 160 and it comes in at 250, what do we do?
Pay it out of
With
next
that.
year,
Yeah, we can pay it forward
the next budget year.
next budget year.
That's what I think the purpose of the deficit spending is that you can carry the loss over to the next year and include it in the next year's budget. Is that right, Andrea?
That's correct, yes.
So from
Plus-
a cash flow point of view, where would that money come from to pay vendors? Like in March of a current fiscal year, even though you're carrying it over to the next year?
Andrea, can you pay the vendors?
I'm having trouble with my audio.
Sorry.
So the question is
How do you?
if we need to pay the vendors more in March and we've overspent the budget, can we make those payments with no problem?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So it's just,
It's an accounting problem,
Yeah.
not a.
Exactly, it's not a cash problem, it's an accounting. problem.
Yes,
Okay,
I mean, I would think worst case, you could just
No.
go and
yep.
you could hit next year's FinCom reserve, right?
hadn't been
But
voted.
if you don't have any left in the current year one, which. we
Oh, no,
probably
you
would
just-
anyway.
you include it in your tax calculation the next year.
Yeah, you have different options of how you can fund that deficit.
We did it, we've done it once before, probably 2015.
Yeah, no, my concern just is we have an accounting issue, which we could deal with. Just want to make sure vendors get paid, like, if we have a whopping storm, we want to make sure people are around for the next one.
Right.
Yes, no, they absolutely definitely get paid.
Okay.
As long as they send us their invoice.
And just one probably dumb, this is a dumb follow-up question for Chuck, but I gotta believe, I know we're only mid to like January, but I'm sure we're pretty low so far. Is that fair or no? Maybe I'm,
We're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
I don't see the average going up this year.
Got a big pile of salt.
So are you okay if we reduce this to the 160? Shouldn't impact you, right?
Sounds like Andrew's problem, not mine, but.
Yeah,
no,
you
I'm
just
good.
keep spending,
Yep.
yeah.
My favorite budget, right?
So do we propose to make that the budget in this budget, or we have to carry this and then ask for permission to lower it with the state?
No, I think we can do it in this budget, right, Andrea?
Yes, you can.
The 2024.
can I make a motion? To
Yes,
lower it to lower it to 160?
yeah, so you're making a motion to approve the snow and ice budget in the amount of 160,000.
Correct.
I have a second.
Second.
Andy seconds it. Any discussion? I'll take a roll call vote. Mike,
Yes.
Dean,
Yes.
Maury,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
and Sarah votes yes.
Sarah, that was 160,000.
Yes.
Thank you. I wrote down 150.
Oh, no. Next budget is the sanitation budget on page 127.
So this is pretty cookie cutter. The only big one that you'll probably see is we're actually reducing because the overtime that was associated with the DPW staff working on Saturdays, the transfer station will now be Black Earth. We left the token amount there just in case, there's call outs for the equipment because we will still own the equipment.
Okay,
So we'll see how that goes this upcoming year, but that's where we're looking at now.
and they took over a while ago, right? A few months ago?
Yeah, right around Thanksgiving. Yeah.
And has that been working out? Okay,
Well, you guys can tell me if you go up there on Saturdays, but I haven't got any complaints at my office. I've heard of a couple run-ins, but nothing that
Yeah.
makes me feel like they can't handle it.
no, it's just muddier because of the construction.
Yes.
Yeah, we've had that talk with them.
And the fees still go to the town for the,
Any questions on this budget? Did you have any questions, Mike?
Nope, I'm good, thanks.
So I'll make a motion, we approve the sanitation budget for FY 24 for 48,500.
Do I have a second?
second,
Dean seconds. Take a roll call vote. Mike,
Yes.
Dean,
yes.
Maury,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
and Sarah votes yes. Next is rubbish collection and disposal. And I know we entered into contract a couple of years ago, maybe. And can you refresh my memory as to kind of how that contract is structured?
So I assume you mean the curbside. So the curbside program is the big one in this budget, which is currently, when we bid it, JRM was the company that we went with.
Yep.
They've recently been bought out by Republic. So if you see a Republic truck around town, that's them. They still have the same facility in JRM there, but they're much more of a national company that are trying to get into the Northeast market.
That was the one that was searched recently.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yep. So that was a 5-year program. We're currently in year 3.
Okay,
Republic just assumed the contract, so there was no change to terms. It's just different name on the check. That's $300,000 is the flat rate for the curbside pickup. That's your trash and recycling. That's just the pickup. We also pay separately for disposal. So the curbside trash goes to Wheelabrator in North Andover. The curbside recycling goes to the JRM, now Republic Center in Peabody. We also, the reason that 370,000 there instead of 300 flat is because we also have curbside compost pickup. So that was renegotiated when we gave Black Earth the contract to build the facility and take over the transfer station. But it's still not a zero contract. It's I believe $50,000 with an escalator for inflation and CPI. So for this budget, we're looking at the 370,000 under the collection line, as you see there. And then this is also, like I said, the 300,000 is a flat rate. They did not escalate that for inflation or CPI in the 5 years,
okay,
but you can bet in year 3 year when it comes up, that you will see maybe not significant, but more than 2 or 3%.
But-
When we did it.
So,
Hey Chuck, quick question. So
So
If
300
I'm looking
is
at
just for JRM/Republic.
Hold on,
The
Mike.
70 was Black Earth.
Oh, okay.
So.
But now it's going to be 50.
It'll be a little bit less.
Yeah, but
Still giving us some sort of
Cushion.
cushion.
Yeah, okay, Mike, go ahead.
So my question was just, given all that Chuck, you just said, why, when I look at Andrea's, quarterly report, I would think we'd be coming in right at, say, 50%, right? Because she's showing the first 2 quarters of the year. But it's coming in at like, 38% on the 370 grand thing and 39% on the other one.
My guess is that Republic, when they took over for JRM, has been horrible about billing. And it hasn't either caught up or they're billing on the wrong. We also have, the next line is disposal, which includes dumpsters and other things that go on, that was with JRM, now with Republic. And so therefore, their billing has been horrible, to say the least. So.
But-
I would look
but
at the
particularly
encumbered number, not the expended.
Sorry?
I would look at the encumbered number, not the expended. Not, I don't have it right in front of me, but that would be my guess.
Okay. So you think both of it's just due to like late billing or something?
Andrea, do you have an answer on that?
Yeah, I would say that their billing has not caught up with the month, the calendar.
I'm actually looking it up right now.
Okay. Ann Harrison, you have your hand raised. Do you have a question?
Yeah, going back, you voted on the snow.
Yes.
But you didn't vote on the snow salaries. You
We
voted for the 160.
We voted on the entire snow budget in the amount of 160,000.
Right, which is not the entire snow budget.
Oh, shoot, thank you. I think we've done that on the other ones too. No. The 160 is the total expenses.
Yeah, but there's the other
It
30.
includes the 32 in salaries and benefits. Plus, we've reduced that 170 total other expenses down by 42,000.
Oh, okay. I find that again.
202.
Yeah.
was 160.
You voted for 160.
Yes.
Okay.
We
Where did the 32 go?
we reduced, so the 202 that's in the book,
Yeah,
the 32 plus the 170. And so
yeah.
we reduced the 202 down to 160
Which,
because we're allowed to do that.
okay, so you're reducing it not by 10,000, but by 30,000,
42,000.
42,000.
Right, so we're reducing the 170.
You're reducing the 202 to 170,
Yes, 160.
160, sorry. Okay. That seems large, but fine, thank you.
So the 170 becomes 150. Okay.
The 170 becomes whatever, but the 202 becomes 160.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay,
And we're doing that on the basis that the 5-year average total cost for snow was 158 and we're allowed, so because that's less than what our budget is, we're allowed to reduce our budget to
Yep.
5-year average.
okay, and the 5-year average includes the salaries and benefits.
Yes,
Okay, thank you, just wanted to be sure.
no problem. Okay. So we approved sanitation. Oh, yeah, we're at rubbish collection.
Yeah, I just, just to, I don't know, keep asking about this. When I look at the prior year, it's like we had the almost exact same situation. We were at 37% and 41 at this, midway through the budget year. I mean, I guess maybe they're perennially behind on the billing, or I don't know, it just seems weird.
I think Andrea's looking it up
Yeah.
for us.
I'm crying. I'm having computer issues at the moment.
Well, even the salaries were low.
Yeah, everything.
Sanitation, composting, recycling. There are salaries shown,
We're talking about rubbish collection, recycling down lower.
talking this.
I thought that we're talking this.
Oh, okay.
Thing,
But the same,
same issues
Same.
there.
yeah, both of them. The salaries are low for the sanitation, composting and recycling, but that's because you no longer have the people
It's the split.
at the transfer station. Okay. Okay. We like that.
Hey, Andrea,
Ask your question, Mike.
what's
and
that?
Ask
Oh,
me your
okay.
question and I'll make sure she hears you.
So I know she's looking this up. I wondered if it'd be easier for her to look at the prior budget year to see if it's like what Chuck said, where, you know, it looks funny because we're at 37 or 40% midway through the year, but they do in fact, you know, catch up, so to speak, in the second half of the budget year. I don't know.
The other thing, I'm not sure if it's the line that you're looking at, because I'm not sure what you're looking at, but the other thing that is more of a guess than an actual is the tonnage. So, like I said, we pay for disposal, we also have recycling. And if those tonnages change, or if they're not linear through the year, because we pay a monthly tonnage, that's an actual. And so that would also contribute to being over or under in some spots.
Yeah, no, I 100% get that. To me, it's weirder on the flat fee, right? The 300 grand and the 70, like that should be exactly 50%, right? Like,
Yeah, well, I'm very sure that that's a billing thing.
Huh.
They're definitely charging us the full 300 because that's a low number. They're not leaving anything to chance on that.
and we're definitely paying 70 to Black Earth.
Well, that's a little bit different because we do pay a monthly fee, but we also have Christmas tree collection as well as leaf collection. So that may be lagging as well, but you know, those are smaller numbers, so.
Right, but what I'm saying is, at the end of the day, when we're looking at all 4 quarters, that 370 is gonna equal 370, like 99% chance.
Yep.
Yeah.
It'll be a little fat, but not by, not by 10%, by like 2%.
Now, the other, like you said, the other line, the disposal or tip fee, that's more of a guesstimate, right?
Correct.
And so we're looking low, right?
On that one specifically is the other wild card is dumpsters. And they have not been billing us for the pickups of the dumpsters, let alone the tonnage.
You're talking like dumpsters at Spring and Beach or?
Sing Beach, Tux, Harbor.
Masco.
We have a couple at the transfer station as well. Stuff like that.
Oh, the metal.
So
How long-
it's finally
how
gonna be
long
able to
do we
get to
lock
my
in that
computer.
rate?
Wait, hold on, Mike. Go ahead, Andrea.
I was able to look it up. Sorry. All right, does this work?
Yes.
So I was able to look it up and both fiscal 22 and fiscal 23 had 5 payments for the current fiscal year. So that's why it's a little behind. It's missing the 6th payment to make it 50%
And you get the 12th payment in time to include it.
timing.
Yeah, but you'll get the 12th payment in time to include it for the year.
Yes.
Mike,
Yeah,
do you
usually
have
there
another
that there's 12 months of payments in the year.
Yeah, okay. Do you have another question, Mike?
Yeah, no, I guess I'm good on the on the flat fee part. The 370, it sounds like just it's a billing issue. We'll get caught up, whatever. I guess then I'm just questioning the other one. Are we overestimating too much?
The disposal?
Yeah,
We don't have the breakdown on that year to date. We have the So the disposal. The actual in 2022 was only 169.
It was 145 before that, so I'd be okay with going to 200 at least.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like we could shave a little, no?
Any thoughts on that, Chuck?
Just that I'm a little nervous because of what I said, the
Wow.
dumpsters, the tonnage. It, you know,
That's not
it's
fixed.
it's not fixed, so the tonnage that goes to wheel grader is actually going up 3% a year.
Okay,
So, you know, I definitely wouldn't want to take it down to like the 170 range. 200 probably, would be, wouldn't make me sweat too bad. But yeah, it's a wild card. I don't have a crystal ball.
But let's just say we go to 200 and the actual ends up 210. I don't, I mean, it's kind of like with the snow fees, right?
no, it's different. We can't deficit spend.
Well, we have 230 for this year now, so if that pans out like the other years, then we should have an extra 30,000.
No, we can't carry that forward.
Right.
That won't hit free cash until the end of 2024. I mean, till the end
July,
of the fiscal,
right.
yeah.
There's
Yeah,
no
but-
kind of reserve transfer we could do?
What?
There's no kind of reserve transfer we could do in that situation?
I don't think we want to do a budget, assuming we're gonna do a reserve transfer.
No, I'm just trying to think worst case scenario, 2 standard
Oh.
deviations kind of thing, that's all.
Do we know what the tonnage charges are so far this year, Andrea? Because our report doesn't break it down.
Well,
I
there's,
think you're muted.
You're muted, Andrea.
I think you're on.
Sorry about that. That was user error this time. On the report underneath the rubbish collection and recycling, there is a disposal expense line. It's the 230. It's just like a little bit further down, so you can see it's
Page.
39% expended so far.
So that's at almost 50%. And is that billed for 6 months or 5 months?
5 months.
I know they've had problems with the dumpster, so I know that's not accurate. Now, whether or not they know that and they're gonna catch up or not is, their problem, but that's.
All right, but Chuck, end of the day, you'd be all right with 200?
well, let's find, but hold on for a second, because so last year was 230,000 budgeted, and this year it's actually 235.
Yeah.
So that was your,
Just a token.
2.5%.
okay. But is it, I mean, what's the basis for it as we think about it? I mean, I guess you don't know what it's gonna be.
The basis is there is a 3% increase in our disposal.
Yeah.
So that's definitely gonna happen. So, if we spend 168 and we had the exact same tonnage, it would be 3% higher, give or take, I guess I'm going back and forth, but
This is only going up 2.5%.
this counts the dumpsters, it counts the tonnage on the curbside. So they pick it up, they bring the truck to the North Andover, then they come back. It also, anything that gets put in the dumpsters up at the transfer station, whether it's the compactors or otherwise, the tonnage on that. So all of these things are just, variable from year to year, and the 3% is a given. So if I reduce it down to the actual from prior year, I can pretty much guarantee we'll be over. Now, that being said, we haven't consistently spent the exact number because it's hard to predict the exact number. And it does, admittedly seem like we're pretty high compared to where we were. I would just caution that, if things change, then, you could see that being more than 2.5% in a future year.
What's
Future
hap-
year, so the disposal contract is up at the end of next fiscal. So we will be renegotiating that as well, which that's not a negotiation, that's here's your new number.
What's happened with the recycling fees? 'Cause
So-
at one point we were getting money and then we weren't. And
That's another good point. So that is a flat fee for the 5 years, because that was a JRM relic,
Okay.
but that will not be 3% when 2 years when it goes back out. So yeah, For FY 24, if you want to put it at 200, I probably wouldn't argue with you too much. If you're expecting me to be at 2.5% in FY 25. We probably will not.
I
What's
just
the
want to
plan?
mention too, I just did some quick math and like if I add what we've been paying monthly, we're on track to spend about $216,000 this year. If nothing else changes the next 6 months. So I just want to throw that out there.
Is that because that 90 grand, that's only 5 months?
Correct, yes.
So 216, wait a minute, 216, and that's not including the dumpsters.
That's assuming the dumpsters as well, unless I have to
Yeah,
look at,
I'm just saying I know the dumpster number is not real right now.
So if you take the 216 times 1.03, if there wasn't so much user error, that brings it to 222,500.
No, but wait, I think that 3% is already in what we're paying monthly, right?
No, but each year it goes up an additional 3%, Mike.
Okay.
So if I take what we're on track to spend this year and increase it by 3%, it gets it up to 222,500. And then he's saying that there's stuff that we haven't been billed, that they're not billing for the dumpsters. So I would be comfortable holding at the 230, but I'm not comfortable going much below that.
I'd say go for 216.
But we know it's gonna increase 3% next year in this budget.
It, it increases 3% on the dollars per pound or ton or whatever it is, but the actual weight is like, you know.
Yeah, but if I take what we're spending this year, 216,000, and add 3% for the automatic 3% increase in the rate,
Next year.
that comes to 222,500.
I understand the math. I'm saying you're making the assumption that the weight or the volume of trash is exactly the same, which, you know.
If our population's going up, we're gonna have more.
I'm not on board to reduce it. I don't think there's enough definition in this line item to make it worth to pick a few thousand off of it.
So what was, Andrew, what was the total last year for this line?
170.
total was, just bear with me a minute.
It's in the document 74, but it's different. We're in the middle of a
I
different.
mean,
Yeah, I would have to go back. and look.
106,
There's so many factors.
69.
yeah, 169,000.
Yeah.
We budgeted, like, that was FY 22,
Whereas by 21.
budgeted 174 and spent 169.
Clean out their
I'll,
basement.
I'll call that 170 just for rounding, right?
But I didn't
Yep.
expect it to be, this next year, and then, now we're probably back to steady state, you know what I mean, like, there's so many variables.
What do people feel about this?
I feel we should keep it where it is,
Yeah,
but we should definitely be watching this going forward, but.
Okay, what do you feel, Dean?
I think we could whittle something in.
And it seems to me it's just such an unknown. And it doesn't seem to me like it's a place to whittle off a couple of thousand. I mean, if we do that on everything, we're gonna be in deep trouble at the end of the year.
I agree with your notion that I don't think we should be budgeting so close that we're anticipating, reserve fund transfers in the last 2 weeks of the fiscal year even.
I mean, if last year was 170 roughly, and we're saying this year it's gonna be 216, I mean, that's a 27% increase. I mean, I guess entirely possible, but that means the volume of trash is up way much high, because
Yeah, but Andrea just said a moment ago that if she takes the 5 payments that we've paid already this year and she maps it forward for the balance of the year, we're coming in at 216.
no, I understand that. What I did was I took that 216 minus the 170 from prior year, right? And then did that increase as a percentage, right? And it comes in at a 27% increase year over year.
It is
Which,
what it is. I mean,
but it's a function of volume and
that's what, I guess that's what I'm saying. That's a bit shocking to me that the volume will be up that much, but yes, entirely possible. I don't know all the drivers, but just seems weird.
the dumpsters, I mean, I think it starts enough. If you have a good beach year, we're there, we're there twice a week. If we have a down beach year, it's less. If we talk the transient docks down by Masco and the fisherman pier, like all of this is just, it's out of my control. So it is what it is, in my opinion.
Well, and we had the beach closed to non-residents. Right?
Chuck, I have a question for you.
Sure.
You can remember. In FY 22, I believe, didn't you move some of the charges we were charging to garbage collection to disposal? Like we didn't have it in the right bucket that we were actually charging it to, and that's why the budget went down for 23 and then went up for disposal.
Yeah, we've definitely been moving things around. I bet you if you go back.
Well, if you look at,
I can't tell on the page 129 for certain, but that does ring a bell.
I can break that out and have a better line analysis.
Yeah, I mean, that at least would make sense to me. If like there's different inputs and outputs, and for 1 year, maybe last year, it was weird because of ABC, like, but.
I mean, you can see in the rubbish collection line in FY 21 actual, it's almost 400,000, right? So there's obviously something going on there where we are taking dumpsters and charging them to that line and say, and then that was not coming out of the 144. So yeah, from year to year, it's definitely been inconsistent.
Well, we also know we have a $20,000 cushion in the 370, right, for 2024. So there's 20,000 right there. If we go to the 200,000, then we got.
Well, not necessarily because we have Christmas trees and leaf pickup.
That aren't included.
That's not part of the 50,000. So it's probably more like, off the top of my head, I think it's it's 6,000 for, I think it's another 10,000. I think it's 6,000 for Christmas trees and 4,000 for leaf or vice versa.
When did Hills leave and JRM come on roughly? Was that fiscal 21?
So we actually had waste management when Hills went out of business. And so they finished the contract, or I don't know if we started a new one, but when I started, it was waste management.
Okay,
And then we got JRM. We're in year 3 of
okay,
a 5-year contract, so it would have been 2 fiscals ago.
all right.
so
20%.
22, 21, 20,
And that's another.
July 20, so it'd be the
There
2021
There
budget.
was definitely some.
The tipping fee for the recycling when we had waste management was outrageous. Like
Yeah.
we went down, and so we're realizing some of that savings now, knowing that in 2 more years, it could be the opposite.
Because they got bought out by Republic and, yeah. this
So
is where we'll go.
are we willing to vote on this budget? Or what do we want to do?
I would say we're not gonna spend a lot of time on it.
I know.
But I think it's, it's worthwhile to be taking a peek at it, but I think where we are with the 216 and the 3% and some other unknowns, you might be able to shave, 10,000 off of it, but I'm not sure it's worth it.
I mean, 10,000 here, 10,000 there, we just shaved 42 off snow. I don't know.
I'm totally fine with that. I just,
I'm not willing to just do hot shots in the dark and just pick a number out of the cloud. I mean,
But that's what this is, like, right? I mean,
that doesn't matter. We're not talking about FY 25. It is what it is in 2025. If we have a contract and it goes up, there's nothing we can do about it. That's different than some of the other items with its discretion. It's-
so Chuck, what would you think to 220?
If that's less than taking the current year times 1.3%, I'm not gonna support that, Mike.
But that's making the assumption that the volume and the weights comes in exactly, I mean, the 3% is fixed, I get that, but the volume's not.
Yeah, but it could be even higher.
And it could be lower, I mean, right? It's like, there's guesstimation and all this stuff.
Do I have a motion?
I make a motion that we accept the rubbish and collection disposal at 605,000 for fiscal year 24.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Andy will second. I'll take a roll call vote. Mike,
No,
Dean,
Yeah, I think it's all right.
Maury,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
and Sarah votes yes. But I agree, Mike. I think it's something we have to keep close tabs on.
Absolutely.
I mean, end of the day, we come in under on so many different things. Like, that's the high level thing that I see.
Right.
Very good point.
Hi, Greg.
Which is a good thing, but then as we know, it just drops all this extra money down into free cash.
Right. The next is the facilities department. And late this afternoon, Andrea provided us with what we had requested, which was to reflect the prior year's actual and budgeted based on pulling the items out of the various departments they'd been in to give us a better picture. Because we didn't have any prior numbers. And so the total 2022 budgeted was 126,500. The actual was 123,980. The budgeted in 2023 was 148. And the requested in 2024 is 151,068. Can you explain a little bit of the changes? You might not, do you not have this sheet?
We have it on a phone over here. I didn't get a chance to review it in great detail, but what's the over, I have the budget in front of me. What is there a question between year to year or? what-
Well, I
what
think
capital-
that the park and beach maintenance has gone up 2,000.
Yep, so that's a function of the cost for beach cleanings. That drives that
Okay,
almost all of it. We did go up fairly significantly on an hourly rate. We also added the small piece of town-owned beach on the, what I think it's called Gray Beach near Magnolia. So we did spend more hours this past year than we had in previous years, so that's accounting for that.
Clean up on that beach is no small.
Yeah, that's
Huge.
now the town hall building maintenance actual for 2022 was just under 6,000, and this is 10,300.
I think the 3 lines should be all, it's all part of town hall. The building, the elevator and equipment. That equipment's all town hall stuff.
Yeah, but I'm just looking at each line item that we have in this thing that Andrea sent us.
Okay,
I mean,
So
the
is there a
other-
specific question about town hall or just? in
Why
general,
did-
What are we spending on them?
why is the maintenance budget so much more than what our actual was for 2022?
So I think, it can be quite variable in terms of when things break down, when we're having issues and have to call people in. Since bringing our custodian facilities tech, Corey on, he's been able to address more of the kind of routine issues, especially on the plumbing end. Plumbing issues that we would normally have to call out for a contractor to come in, he can address. But on the opposite end, we're seeing more of an increase on the rates that we're having to pay to contractors to come in, especially on the HVAC side of things. So it's kind of a balance there of, if you have, one major thing that goes wrong, that can eat up a lot of the budget. The elevator for the time being has been operating pretty well. We're having the monthly maintenance done that the company's actually coming now. But a lot of the inspections have also increased. So for fire alarm, those inspections are quite costly, and same with the elevator inspections. So we are seeing, the trades have gotten quite a bit more expensive as of late.
Does the fire department do the fire alarm inspections?
They do not know. They assist with it, but you have to have an alarm company come in and do it.
Now, the fire department building maintenance. Oh, no, that's relatively the same. The other question I have is on one of these carryover items. You're now doing fire department building maintenance. Is that separate from fire station renovations?
Yes. So that's more, the maintenance is if there are, plumbing issues, HVAC, those general type of upkeep. The renovation is more of the major things, like we're taking out the air tanks that occupy a good portion of the basement that used to power the horn that sounded. So things like that. What else are we doing?
But that's now in this facilities department.
Doors and.
Yeah, doors, walls. So there's been a number of things that we've been kind of trying to identify with them, to improve their.
But that would be in the facilities budget, not the fire department budget, correct? That's moved.
How did that break down? Because I don't think we have the station renovation, do we?
Unless it's under capital.
Yeah, I'm looking at capital, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that's not something that we see necessarily, but we've been working with them on.
Yeah.
On the capital side.
Okay, well, we'll hold on this thing because we've got public safety, where is it? I've lost it now. Fire station renovations. We've got carry forwards and budgets that are up to $58,000. And I thought we were told that was all being moved under facilities. Is that correct, Greg?
So we've taken out from capital the fire station renovations because it was really being used as a not major capital. It was more repairs and smaller projects. So we've taken it out of that. And I was trying to quickly get to my fire page because I thought we had put
We took the 30,000 out for this year, I know, not having it in the budget.
we took it out of capital.
Yeah,
And then, yeah, no, so we just eliminated that, and because we had those extra dollars from carry forward, that we didn't feel that there was a need for more dollars at this point.
so do you think by the time we get to the end of this fiscal year, we'll be able to make a determination as to whether that excess money can be returned to the free cash in the fiscal year 2025 budget?
Yeah, we certainly can commit to either have it committed or a clear plan for it, or it can be given back. I mean, that's
Okay,
certainly a fair ask.
okay.
This still has the original request for the ambulance from the fire engine fund, which I'm pretty sure was retracted too.
Well, when,
That's another night.
Yeah. that's another. Okay,
Athletic field maintenance is basically Sweeney. Is that right?
So it's
We added.
and Masco, because that
Yeah,
is
yeah, right.
used, so it's, we're utilizing that for any of the reseeding. We have fertilizer treatments that come in, with all natural, by the way, organic, because that has been a concern, especially for Masco. But yeah, utilizing those for, keeping the fields good.
but this budget and the budget for 2023 is twice what we've spent in 2021 and 2022. We spent under 10,000. 2021 and 2022. And now we're carrying 21,000.
Yeah, I think we really weren't keeping up and doing as much upkeep with those fields as we should have been.
Okay,
Now, are we doing that with in-house labor or do you hire?
A combination, yeah, so the like fertilizing and weed treatments, that's a contractor that we hire to do that. But, you know, a lot of the reseeding and that type of work, maintenance, we're doing
Yeah,
in-house.
They also
Kind
have irrigation issues every now and then,
Yeah.
stuff like that on those, that we have to call out.
Irrigation and
Sweeney.
And Reed Park is irrigated.
Yeah.
That's probably.
I see it going along.
Can be-
During the,
It doesn't
during the
include.
drought.
Turf.
the areas you really are not.
I think the school.
Okay.
What is that?
I was asking about
Coach
Coach
Field.
Field. I'm forever confused about who's responsible for Coach
I
Field.
think that is partially town and
It's
partially 50-50.
50-50, town and school.
This is maybe on capital TBD.
Okay, that
Does the tennis court resurfacing come? from
probably
the school
explains
too?
why it's neglected.
Park and Rec, that's in the different.
Well, there's a tennis court on Brook Street.
Yeah, that just was resurfaced though.
Yeah,
By the school project, that's part of
Right.
the school project.
They were using it as,
Yeah,
it was,
exactly.
they did a nice job.
Yeah.
But do we have to do it again?
well, no, it's not, it's all paid. There's nothing left in the account. Yeah.
It's just carrying forward with the school did. it.
Okay.
Okay, so now we're on, okay. Any more questions on facilities? Do you have any questions on facilities, Mike?
No, I'm good.
Okay,
Is the rotunda gonna be part of the facilities?
Yeah, so we do under Tux Point, that would, any maintenance that's done on the rotunda is carried under the Tux Point, which we certainly have some.
That's the priority.
so do I have a motion to approve the facilities department budget in the amount of 151,068?
So moved.
Second,
Maury seconds, take a roll call vote. Mike,
Yes,
Dean,
yes.
Maury,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
Sarah says yes. Streetlights.
All I can say on this one is we're working on it.
Yeah, so
Lots of streetlights need attention and we're working on it.
So this is the same story as it was last year where we discovered upon taking them over from the utility that they were needing a lot of upgrade and replacement.
Yep, so we're currently developing that scope right now. I have Corey working on that. And just going through and figuring out all the issues that we have existing, and then, you know, I think we got a pretty good kitty of money that, you know, we will certainly use all of it.
This year?
Yeah.
Because
would-
we've only spent 12% this year.
Yeah, we really haven't
You're
done
planning.
yet,
Yeah.
yeah, so that, we're looking at getting that contract out in the next month or so. To start, you know, jumping on all those repairs in springtime.
And I would say this is not a Manchester problem, although it's a problem in Manchester, but you know, all of the communities around us that took part in that have the same issues.
So on the forward item on the street light purchase and conversion, we're still carrying almost $13,000. Have we finished that project?
Yes. But if we can utilize that for repairs,
No, because we have a budget, a line item for repairs. So Andrea, can that go back? If we have a warrant article?
You can go back on a warrant article, or you can just approve that I can close it at year end and it goes to free cash.
Oh, so we don't need it on the warrant?
no,
Unless you want to use it for something specific.
Okay,
So between this year and next year, we have 120,000 for streetlights, and we spent about 10 so far this year. But is there that much work?
yeah, a lot of it is underground, and, you know, anytime we have to get into the streets to do work,
So
or,
it's
you
all
know, a
paving.
bank repair. That goes,
So it's the wires that are rotting, yeah.
yeah, we're broke, you know, yeah, rotting or have been broken by, you know, unknown other other work along the way, just over time.
Has anyone gotten electric shock during any complaints of?
We did have a complaint for a dog.
Yeah,
downtown.
that's right, yeah.
Okay. I make a motion to approve the streetlights budget in the amount of $60,000.
Second,
Take a roll call vote. Mike,
Yes,
Dean,
Yes.
Lori, Andy,
yes.
and Sarah says yes. Ah, that's the end of,
Look at this.
oh no, where's the water and sewer? Oh, shoot. It's a completely different section. Water,
165 is water. I opened to it.
okay. Water department.
Told Greg we couldn't do a call this year. Too much training required in him.
He's smiling. Um. Any comments on this?
Where is the increase due to the increased testing? Are we doing extra testing?
Defense?
So right now, that's in the outside lab testing on the 620 budget. I'm not sure if you're looking at 610 or 620.
So 10,000.
We don't have the numbers anymore.
Oh, sorry. So there's the water treatment and then there's just the water. So that's.
Okay.
Where we have natural gas, electricity, contract service.
Yep. Of $10,000. And you've increased that budget because of the PFAS.
Yep.
can I ask Chuck a high level question about water? I mean, I might be a little off topic 100%, but just curious why the water usage revenue is up so dramatically.
That is a question I am diving into at the moment. The only guess, and this is pure speculation, just it's probably seeing the same numbers you saw, was that the large users continue to use through the drought, whereas the non-large users conserved, and therefore we had a decrease in usage over the year, but we had a slight increase in revenue, which we would have expected a larger increase in revenue based on the actual increase in the rates, but just the way the tier structure is, I think that's.
That's a good theory. I'll buy that.
But the revenue year to date is down. We're way down.
Am I looking at the wrong, not the wrong thing?
Well, it's very interesting. It's, I've got to find.
I was
the
just
page.
looking at the, mostly, because we did have a water ban for the
Right, so
last quarter.
for the first 6 months of this year, the water revenue is down, but the sewer revenue, no, the water revenue is down, but the sewer revenue's up.
I show, unless I'm looking at it wrong, water looks up big.
No, water's down for last year. It's only,
I-
oh, it's up, you're right, I'm looking at the wrong column, it's up.
It's up over 100 grand. It's up like, and I mean, when you look in percentage terms, year to date, it's like 65%.
And the sewer's only up by 60, so it was irrigation off of the non-sewer meters.
Which one?
Yeah, the sewer is pretty flat, relatively speaking.
When she sent us late this afternoon, 1 PM.
Yeah, so I was only looking, so I have to do every year a annual statistical report. But it's based on calendar, so the data I was looking at was for the calendar year 2022, which included the drought and the water ban. And so, but it says the same story basically, but that's my working theory. I'll have a better answer in a month.
Because the bills have already gone out this year.
Okay, right now, we're in the
It's
middle
way
of
down.
billing for the previous 3 months, which would then,
But you've billed through the irrigation system in October.
Yeah, yep.
Or it was due in October and it's down. It's not up.
no, it was up. Revenue was up.
Year-to-date revenue in 2021,
Quarter, I mean, quarter over quarter from
I'm
say
talking,
Q3 of 22 to Q3 of 21 was up.
I'm talking Andrew's report from 7/1. Oh, yeah, right, I'm wrong.
That
I
actually-
keep reading it wrong, sorry.
Hey, Chuck.
Hmm?
At a super high level, is it fair to say what the highest usage quarters would be, what, Q1 and Q4 of a fiscal? Meaning, July, August and September
yes.
and then
The-
April, May, right? Yeah.
Second quarter billing.
Yeah, so it's hard for me to answer that. The billing cycles don't line up with quarters and they don't line up with fiscals. So it's hard for me to say exactly how that works, but yeah.
So the revenue would be Q2 and
Yeah,
Q3.
quarter.
No,
It's
Four.
it's really Q2 and Q3 on a calendar year basis.
right.
But that, I think Mike's right. It's, Q1 and Q4 of a fiscal, right? I think.
Q2 and Q4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something like
And on your quarterly report, I keep reading this and I keep getting confused. It looks to me like year-to-date. This has an old year on it. This says December 2021. And December 2020, but I thought this report was for December 2022.
So if you go over to enterprise funds revenue, 310.
Right. Exactly.
ironically, but enterprise funds.
That's what I'm looking at. Fiscal year
Enterprise,
2022
Yeah.
versus fiscal year 2021.
Mhm.
It looks like it's up over 100.
Says 769.8 versus 968.2,
So that's last
Right.
month.
Yeah,
doesn't it?
Up over 100,000.
But it's a year late.
You're looking at the enterprise fund revenue page?
Yes.
Yes,
I show
Water.
current fiscal year is 885 grand compared to prior year 770, let's call it.
Yeah.
So it's up 115 grand.
So I printed out oh, wait a minute, maybe I printed out the wrong stuff.
Somehow you got 21, but I'm looking at fiscal.
Yeah,
year
you're right.
23.
no, you can get 21 if you go to the last tab, which is, I think Andrea's put in enterprise fund fiscal year analysis, and she goes back like 3 years.
No, I'm looking at this.
So you get 17, 18, 19 fiscal year 20 and 21. Is that what we're looking at?
I'm looking at this.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah, that's the right tab.
That's the wrong years.
That's
2022 fiscal year on December 21. So I must have printed out the wrong thing.
Yeah,
Sorry.
because I have
Right.
23 and 22.
That's what I got.
Okay.
So,
I must be over 2 more columns
yeah,
or something.
because I'm on 23,
Okay, sorry.
23 and 20.
Use the error again.
This is the problem of not purging old files, You can get back into the back here.
I don't know, I just,
All right.
that's the way you go
Easy to do.
electronic, right, Andy?
No paper.
Okay. So fuel and oil up on water department, are your chemicals up? Or that's in water treatment?
Yep, so there's a chemical line in water treatment.
Okay.
But that's way out where.
Which is what we expected.
Factored is always there.
Yeah. Okay, so do I have a motion to approve the water department budget in the amount of 564,
Can I just ask a question about
Yep.
electricity?
Yep.
We budget high, but we sort of come in low. And is there a whole lot of variability in the electricity with water?
So we've switched our providers on the transmission side of the, so Andrew and Greg can talk to that better than me, but it's been a moving target for sure.
That's the one that wasn't billing. We went to a
Oh,
third
yes,
party
yes,
and we don't
yes.
get the bills.
Right, this may be a timing issue.
Issue, and we also get a 15% discount on our supply as well.
So we think
think
90
I
is
mentioned
a fair number.
For sure.
So I make a motion that we approve the water department budget for FY 24 for $564,273.
I'll second it.
Take a roll call vote. Mike,
Yes,
Dean,
Yes.
Maureen,
Yes,
Andy,
Yes,
and Sarah says yes. Yep. Yeah. Now we're on the water treatment. Any more questions on the water treatment? Natural gas. What happened there?
So we actually fixed the boiler. So now we use it. And so that's that was another reason between the electricity, we had actual electric resistive heaters in there, which were way up in the electricity. We've now rectified that. So we have the boiler back, but that takes gas. And of course, gas went up to whatever it went up to. And that
24%.
actually runs off the same diesel as the generator, I believe, right?
Yep.
So it's a special mix.
But you dropped the electricity budget by
Yeah, so yeah, it's
5,000.
essentially just trading between lines.
yeah, so the overall is less.
Yeah, there was, yes.
Electricity is more expensive.
And what is the contract services is with,
Woodard and Curran. Yep.
and they're up?
I'll have to check, they probably are up, although I think we have the ability to extend them, 3
No, but I
years.
mean, the price is up 6%.
Yeah, so that's just a function of the operator's licenses and,
Oh, what they have to cover?
Yeah, this is, and the CPI and all that stuff is what is baked in here.
So did that have to go to do with the retirement that you had?
No, so these guys are contract ops, but it's basically, we're still paying, their overhead and profit and all that stuff for Woodard and Curran.
So
which includes
what-
their retirements.
How's the contract structured?
So we have.
Hi, John.
How you doing?
Good. Have a seat.
I will, thank you.
Give or take, it's a normal. I think it's a 3-year contract with, we have the ability to extend 3 years at a time. So I think we can go up to 6 or 9 or some number. But the general thing is on CPI, it's a CPI based inflation number.
Oh, okay.
And so
Okay.
from,
I see.
year
Oh,
to
okay.
year. It fluctuates, so it's not
All right.
baked in at 2.5% or anything like that. It's, it's. Functional.
Okay.
and are they supplying all the personnel for this plan?
Yes. I mean, the 2 guys there, not 24/7, but regularly.
Yeah.
And then they have fill-ins that they can pull from other plants.
Mm-hmm.
But it takes 2 guys, 7 days a week.
And I know this is a loaded question and it's a high licensing issue, but do you anticipate the licensing requirements will remain constant, steady state for the next couple of years? Are you hearing anything coming down the pike that suggests this is going to get crazier in the future? or-
No, the issue is not the license itself. The license requirements will continue to be static and, they'll renew and so on. But the problem is people retiring from the field, so their licenses just aren't available. So you end up competing with other cities and towns that, need the same operators with those licenses.
So do you feel it's still in the best interest of the town to use a third party contractor rather than pulling it in-house?
At this point, we don't have an option. I've talked with Greg about it and we've looked at other ways we could try and make it work, but right now there's just not enough licenses and people out there and we couldn't withstand the turnover. And,
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
these guys have been there the company has been there for 20+ years,
It's puts the hiring issue on them.
Is this exclusively for Gravelly Pond or is it also like in Street Well?
Yeah, so
Street
they,
as well,
they operate.
and Round Pond.
So it's both and round.
And then the pump station, separate pump building.
So that's part of Lincoln Street,
Right.
yeah.
No, but there's another one out.
Yeah,
Pond
Round.
Street.
That's
Pond.
Round Pond,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, so they manage that as well.
Any other questions on the water treatment plant? You have any questions on the water treatment plant, Mike?
Nope.
Dean?
Yeah, the actual lab testing was almost 13,000 last year. Do you think that 10,000 is enough? Or is there a reason why that was so high?
Yeah, so the reason is because we had to test for PFAS.
Right.
And then not only do we have to test for PFAS, but we actually were sending split samples because the labs weren't agreeing on the numbers. But I'm going to discontinue that in probably next month. So we're at Lincoln Street, we're doing monthly.
Yeah.
So we were actually doing monthly times 2. Now we'll reduce that to once a month with just one lab. And then, yeah, so I think we should be good with the 10,000, but
Was there any trend with, I know the PFAS went down with the drought, but now that we've gotten the rain back, is it coming up again, or is it a function of that at all, or?
it seems pretty irregular. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, we've actually been tracking the precipitation versus when we take the samples and how much we're drawing down the well and all of those things. And it's just.
Yeah, you can't make any correlation.
Right,
at this
okay.
point.
Is the 2 assays is being reduced to 1, is that because you're starting to see agreement in the results?
No, it's because we have a year's worth of data that says the results are gonna be the same no matter how many times we test.
Separated by the same amount, pretty
The
consistent.
delta-
Oh, okay, so you
Yeah.
know what that, okay, so it's
Yeah.
consistently, they've got a different standard or something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
both mass certified labs doing the same exact test, but they're getting
Okay,
From the
results
same
that are off
standard.
plus or
It's-
minus 5 parts per trillion.
So do you have the? Oh, it's all together. I was wondering if we had the year to date
The order has it. So sad.
for the testing, outside lab test. Since what I would seems to be,
I don't think it breaks down.
I don't think it
Andrew,
breaks
to
down.
that level.
just says treatment plant expenses. Are we in trouble, Andrea, on the contract services for water treatment plant year to date? If we spent 13,000 last year, we only budgeted 6,000 and we're still doing the 2 tests.
I believe we're doing okay. I'll double check.
I think we'll probably show that we're going over the 6,000, but I think bottom line will be okay for this year. And then next year.
Right.
Okay.
Andrea, I'm wondering in the future, when you provide us the quarterly, is it possible to break it out for all the lines? I mean, I know it's a PDF you're generating. Or is that more work? Because we've asked a couple of times, we've been trying to dive into a particular line that's rolled up. And
Right. Yes, I could do that.
it's not too much work.
Particularly for the December one, when we're working on the budget, because it's
Yeah,
kind of nice to
exactly.
look at year-to-date actual when we're talking about the upcoming year.
Yeah.
But of course, I printed out all the wrong stuff, so it doesn't matter.
I was even asking if it's not too much trouble, if it could be rerun for December with all the columns, because we've got future budget meetings going on, and to be able to look at the individual would be handy, if that's not too much work.
Yeah, it'll take me a little time, but I'll work on it.
Make a motion that we approve the water treatment plant budget for FY 24 for $646,150.
More in seconds. Take a roll call vote. Mike,
Yes.
Jean,
Yes,
Maureen,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
Sarah said yes. Next is page 174 sewer department. Sewer salaries are up. Is that because of steps and licenses?
Yes.
Natural gas is a big jump. 10 to 20,000.
Look at
Yeah,
20.
that was based on the actual from FY 22.
Yeah, okay.
We should be all right with the warmer year this year.
I don't know, not based on the increases National Grid sent through. Bills are much higher.
Yeah, you really can't win. You do all this energy efficiency stuff and then they just up the rate.
They jack up the rates. They put up the electric by 64%. It's,
Well, they realize we're good for it, so.
well, because everyone's converting from gas to electricity, so they need to have more gas powered plants to generate the electricity. It's crazy. Vehicle equipment and repairs. So what vehicles do you have in the sewer department?
So right now, they actually have a hand-me-down, was one that we were gonna retire from highway, but they use it basically 2 or 3 times a week to make a grit run up to the school street.
But why is the maintenance so high?
That's just been there, but it is an old vehicle that, you know,
Okay.
need to do brakes and tires and stuff like that. It might be. I think that's why we reduced it, to be honest, but it is there.
That's the limit of the equipment that they
Well, you know, once in a while, you know, I might use it to, you know, that's the only vehicle they have.
Right.
There's plenty of other equipment that we have. Okay, even if you're not counting the plant stuff, we have snow blowers and, you know.
Yeah. That's included in the line. item.
Any questions? On the sewer department budget? Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the FY 24 sewer department budget for $1,029,707.
Second,
Maury seconds. Take a roll call vote. Mike,
Yes,
Dean,
Yes.
Maury,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
and Sarah says yes. That's it.
Capital.
Thank you. 4 bonds. Okay, capital for Department of Public Works, 186. I'm looking at 2024.
So just at a high level, I would say, you know, that's mostly the same line items, but we're just, you know, based on inflationary pressures, we're not getting as much work done as previous years. So that's why you see somewhat uptick in roads resurfacing, so on. That's the big one, I think. Not sure if you have any other questions, but
Yeah, because last year, when we got the 5-year projection on capital, road resurfacing was only 400.
Yep.
Yeah.
And now it's 550. Plus chapter 90, right? Chapter 90 isn't included.
what
What's the,
chapter 90 is including the 550, just
Not in the 400.
Correct.
Yeah, so the chapter 90 is the 150 number.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's.
Yeah.
and the facilities 400 is,
So.
350.
DPW facility? 350.
Well, that's just gonna go into a holding fund until we're ready to do it, or
Yeah, so I mean, that would just be engineering related.
is it
Which we
part of
have
the
not.
facility study that they're doing?
Nope, so we have currently done a siting analysis, which is complete.
2024.
That was just for DPW. We have a line item this fiscal year that we're in now for 100,000 for a facility master plan.
Okay.
So that's completely separate. This is assuming that we go forward with a DPW facility, that we'll need to start the engineering now. or we'll have one in 24.
How do you do that if you don't know where the location's gonna be?
Well, I think we would be looking for the select board or FinCom to make a decision on the site to go. We have a siting analysis, so, you know, we can present that anytime, but
So have you were doing a study?
Right.
Is that completed?
yes, for DPW,
For the DPW.
not
yes.
the facility. We're currently working on that.
And the site on that was with the old transfer where Black Earth was.
Yeah, school street.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's in the siting analysis, we did two alternatives. It was, you know, to reconstitute the Pleasant Street site that we're occupying now
Mhm.
versus School Street where Black Earth is vacating.
And has there been have you completed the study on other uses for the current site?
We have not been tasked with that. I know there was an RFP out from the Housing Authority. I think they actually got no responses, but they're still looking at reconstituting that.
I thought that there was a big
Yeah, so-
facility study going on.
Yeah, so
all around.
so that's in this current year that we're working on right now. So part of that overall bigger picture, we'll be looking at what are the options that we could use the existing Pleasant Street site for, you know. whether
Okay.
it's-
So if I could jump in,
Yes,
the assumption is that we'll complete the master facility plan, you know, over the summer. And then that'll give us direction as to what is the best option for DPW for its new home. And then this new money would allow us to advance that design.
Okay,
Is the facilities master plan gonna consider whether the fire department and DPW should be located together or a future or anything like that for efficiency?
Well, I think the more logical combination would be fire and police. As a potential public safety building someplace, you know, down the road. But yes, it'll look at that, it'll look at future town hall options, it'll look at, you know, future homes for DPW. Senior center, that, you know, it'll look at a number of different facilities, expansion of the library potential. So yes, the goal of that facility plan is to say, okay, what are the homes for future facilities that the town will need? Whether they stay put, or do we build new someplace else?
and that's coming in this summer.
Yeah, I would expect, you know, summer, fall timeframe.
Last I heard was spring.
Well, that's for the draft. We'll have a draft first, right?
No, there'll be public presentations of findings along the way and an opportunity for input.
Now what are the general building upgrades?
2000.
So that would be items from town hall. Potentially, you know, some expenses at the library, et cetera. I mean, it's sort of it's a catch-all.
It'd be hard to approve this stuff before we know what the school is doing, wouldn't it? I mean, I would, if the school goes up to 3.5% increase, you know, we might want to pull back on some of this stuff.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, I think that's a valid point. So I think perhaps we can't vote on capital tonight is what you're saying. But we can kind of
We can discuss it.
discuss it.
Yep.
So down at water department. The water pipe replacement seems to be up a lot. And you're using ARPA funds in addition to what's in the budget. What are you planning to do, and is it realistic that we're actually gonna spend this money?
I can spend all that in whatever you want by tomorrow, but the general,
Tomorrow.
the general plan right now is, so we finish School Street. I'm doing inspections on Pleasant Street. Right now, the issue is the economy, the inflation, the supply chains. You can't get new pipe. And so, if you had asked me last year, or even 3 years ago, I would have said that we need to, replace pipe, like we were doing on Ocean Street, Boardman Ave, Raymond Street. Those were all failing pipes. Last year we pivoted and we did a cleaning line project on School Street, which basically renews the inside of the pipe, but it's not new pipe. And so that saved us the supply chain strain constraints that we were seeing in the market. So this is expanding on that and now doing Pleasant Street, which would be the next logical cleaning and lining project. Basically, if you look at our water system, we have the plant at Gravelly Pond, we have the tank at Moses Hill, all that needs to get into town. And so the big spine is down Pleasant Street, down School Street, and into the downtown area, but then also going out to the well and then to towards Gloucester. So the way it's built out, that's kind of the next stage if we're gonna keep continuing this process of renewing pipe.
How does that tie into the timing of the traffic redirect due to the culvert?
So the last project that we did on Pleasant Street was actually just before I started in town, and that was, there's actually two pipes, or was two pipes in Pleasant Street. One was a 6-inch, one was a 16-inch. The 6-inch was abandoned and they relayed all the service lines from one side of the road to the 16, and then the other side was already connected to the 16. We will be, we just left basically temporary patch in those trenches. So that's why if you drive down Pleasant Street, you see all the perpendicular trenches going across the street. So we left those there. So my plan was that prior to the rerouting of the traffic due to the closure at Central, which the only detour for that will be Pleasant to school, or Pine to Pleasant to school. Pine is in relatively good shape, Pleasant less so. So before we would want to pave Pleasant, we would want to renew that water main. That's consistent with what we did on School Street, basically. And so so the best case scenario for closing the road for the Central Street project will be fall of calendar year 24. So basically a year from this fall, best case scenario. So that will give us enough time to line the pipe on Pleasant Street if it needs it, or and then pave like we did on School Street. We will have done on School Street once we pave in the spring. So that is the current plan. Like I said, I actually am not convinced that we need to do the work on Pleasant Street. We need to confirm it. So we had, I'm sure you guys seen the pictures in the paper in my office of the pipe on School Street. We knew that had to be lined. I do not have an equivalent piece of pipe on Pleasant Street.
It's not original though, right?
It is original. Yeah. So based on the modeling we've done, it needs it.
Yeah.
But I want to verify with my own eyes before I spend $2 million, give or take. So that's my plan. So we are actually probably in the next week or 2 weeks, depending on weather. We're gonna remove some hydrants and send a scope in through the hydrant and take a look at the pipe. And then we'll make a decision. But again, I'm sure you've seen my map before of all the red pipe in town, which is the 1890 pipe. I could spend $2 million anywhere in town. So this is the budget, assuming I'm doing Pleasant Street. If I don't need to do Pleasant Street, I'll put it towards a different pipe that needs it.
But in terms of the supply chain and pipe replacement, it's not so much you can't get pipe, but the lead time on pipe.
Yeah, it's 30-week lead time minimum.
Yeah, okay, so planning is more critical, and then you have the contractor on board sooner.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just possible.
Yeah.
If you know that, is the piping pretty consistent in town? So could you be putting in orders now for next year's pipe needs? Or do you have so many different varieties and types, you can't kind of forecast forward on that?
Well, typically, the contractor buys the pipe.
Okay,
And so it's their problem,
okay.
but. Yeah, we did this when we did the floats out at Tex Point, and we bought the steel ahead of time to do the piles, but so we could theoretically do something like that. I have no place to stockpile, that much pipe.
It's
Yeah,
gonna
stuff
be
like
an
that.
ongoing problem because all the federal money
Right.
doing water
Yeah.
across the country. It's a good thing we did what we did when we did.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
And the sewer and water plant upgrades? Are these just holding numbers or is there specific things?
Yeah, so we have been doing about that much in the capital line for the sewer plant upgrade line. I think based on your numbers, you're probably about to ask me about the 500 or 600,000 or so that's sitting there. So that's in preparation of, it's not in this year's budget, but hopefully next year's budget, doing a $2.5 to $3 million upgrade at the wastewater plant. And so to do that, we will need, that much money. We're right now in the middle of a basis of design report, basically prioritizing all the different things that need it. Again, I could spend way more than $2.5 to $3 million, but we're trying to get the right project through, and that will include floodproofing and, it won't include a seawall around the plant, but it'll include floodproofing, some of the stuff that's, vulnerable.
Yeah, basically, a lot of the mechanical systems, electrical systems are to the end of their, useful life based upon like the last major upgrade in 90. So
When was the sewer plant built?
originally, I think that was 70, and then they did a major upgrade.
Okay.
98 or something.
Yeah, sorry, 98, yeah, so we're approaching 25 years out and just going around, there's a lot of things where we've band-aided and those band-aids are pretty much, to the end of their life.
It is a harsh environment.
Exactly,
So,
yeah.
Okay, any more questions for Chuck and Nate?
The general building upgrades for the town hall, is there specific items that you have for that 50,000, or is that just something that you historically spend?
I think Greg said that was kind of a catch-all for some different things.
Yeah. Basically, the maintenance lines won't cover any one major issue, and so this is.
So that,
Kind of something in the back pocket for those issues.
so those are things you can revisit.
Right.
Greg, question for you. I know a year or so ago, we talked about the sewer plant and possibly thinking about offloading sewer to, I guess, Beverly or something like that, if hardening and all that became burdensome. Is that still idea kind of out there someday down the road, or has that been sort of vetted and discarded, or what's the thought on that?
So Nate could probably speak best to that we did do an analysis, sort of a tabletop calculation of the feasibility. And so Beverly is not an option in terms of being able to connect to their system. The regional district there is not receptive to taking on new communities and new flow. Aside from the cost, which is high. In theory, it's possible to do something with Gloucester. Again, very high expense. You got a long way to go for pipes. They stop just a little bit south of or east of south or west of Stage Fort Park. They don't go to Magnolia. So it's a long way. So having said that, so we did take a look at that and the numbers just didn't seem very feasible. However, there is some interest in a regional facility. You may know Gloucester is under an EPA directive to upgrade their plant. They're one of the last primary treatment plants. They're not secondary treatment. And so they're under the gun to change that. So there is some renewed interest in and looking at Gloucester expanding their district, you know, extending down to Magnolia, if they were to do that, then it becomes much more viable for us to think about piping to there. Having said all that, that's multi years down the road. And we need to proceed with our upgrades at the sewer plant. You know, the $3+ million, I think that Chuck and Nate are outlining. You know, that'll be good for another 20 years, right? So I could well envision it taking 20 years to get a connection to Gloucester.
So we're living with our facility and hardening it and making it work for the near term and midterm.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I
Helpful
think
to know.
that's a fair statement.
Foreseeable future.
Yep.
Nice. Okay,
How come there's so many plans and studies under capital improvement? Shouldn't capital improvements be brick and mortar?
what are you looking at?
Well,
What department? We're only talking about DPW.
all right,
That
never mind. Yeah,
will
I'm looking
address
at
another
downtown
night.
strategic plan, and I'm looking at
Yeah,
a lot
we'll
of plans in there, and it's.
address that another night. So are there any more questions for Nate and Chuck, or can we let them go home?
I had one high level on the wastewater treatment plant, just
Okay,
in terms of number of houses connected, are we like capped, like no more room at the inn, or how does that work? You know what I mean?
No, so, you know, we have a permit, discharge permit, it's based on 670,000 gallons per day. With the II work that we've done in the past, you know, say 10 years, something less than that, but, you know, we're seeing a 12-month rolling average of around 450 to 500,000 gallons a day. So that, you know, there's a fair, you know, 25% capacity still remaining. That's actually part of our problem at the plant is the flows are so low and the equipment's all sized, you know, 20 years ago, they sized it for peak demand and, you know, projected build out, and it's just never come to fruition. So all of the systems are just oversized and
So on average, do we add, I don't know, you know, some number? I mean, average is probably a hard thing, but every year we add some more homes or no?
theoretically, yes, but we also, you know, take out an equivalent amount of II in a, you know, relatively normal year. You know, it fluctuates depending on groundwater, you know, so this year with the drought, our numbers are probably lower. Last July, we had 10 inches of rain or something like that. So that was a, once that dropped off the 12-month rolling average, you know, things looked a lot more, you know, a lot different. So there's capacity, there's ample capacity. I look at it like, so on the water side, you know, 100% of the town is on public water, they have the option. And our, you know, generally we're somewhere around 600 to 700,000 gallons a day on average. So if all of that were going into the wastewater side, which it's not because not the entire system is built out, you know, we would be somewhere in that equivalent, you know. So that, you know, we have the ability to sewer the 100% of the town. It's just gravity doesn't work that way in some cases, and you know, some people will remain on septic for that reason.
Right. Okay, thanks.
A question on that front. There has been talk, I know in the past, about extending the line out. Is there any thought to be going down to Singing Beach and pulling the bathhouse into the equation? And maybe while it goes rolling by, pick up parts of Smith's Point, which is. Yeah.
Eaglehead.
Yeah, there. I mean, places that are environmentally challenged near the water.
So, you know, this question's been out there, and you know, we're happy to extend sewer wherever, and we just, you know, we do have a CWMP, and those areas are part of that CWMP as basically a set aside flow. That's, you know, kind of calculated in, if we do expand, you know, make sure you have enough flow for those areas.
Right.
We certainly could, it's just a matter of money.
I mean, if you were to pick up the beach, and I just think about the bathhouse is a key focal point in the town. I mean, if we didn't have that, it would be a problem. And it seems like it's kind of a vulnerability. I'm curious, what would what do you think ballparking, high, as Mike says, high level, to extend the sewer down with a pumping station to catch that? I mean, wow.
It would have
I
to go-
expected like a million or two or three, but
We're not, I mean, we're not that far away. You just have to get down to, tapping.
You'd need a pump station though to get.
Oh, yeah, for sure, pump station. But we just renewed our pump stations 5 years ago for Pine Street, Old Essex Road and Blue Heron.
Yeah.
So, none of those were, they were all a couple $100,000.
I mean, I wonder, Greg, if when,
Yeah, so the force main, but it's still, I don't think it's not.
yeah, I mean, I wonder if part of a thought process here should be to try to, we got sewer capacity to get more people on the sewer. And a logical thing might be next year, if we've got a lot of road disruption happening with the Central Street culvert, would that be a year to divert toward more sewer infrastructure enhancement? I don't know, it's just a thought, but I'm surprised by the number. I would have thought it would have been,
Well, that
Crazy
general
big.
area is the closest, and I mean, not for nothing, that road needs to be paved anyway, and the sidewalk needs to be redone, so. If you.
right. So as you drive
Well, I
out of
think-
Manchester on Pine Street, on the left, there is by Rocky Hill Road or whatever, is that a pump station?
Yeah.
So that's like the magnitude of what you're talking about for a lift.
Rockwood Heights.
Yeah, sorry. I should know my roads better. Sorry.
I'm on ZBA. I get to see everything. Now I know the roads.
I don't know, just seems like something worth thinking about here.
Yeah, I mean, further to that, like, is there any kind of, like, I don't know, I'll say carrot and stick, hopefully more carrot than stick, to get people to want to join, right? I mean,
Yeah, the challenge is, the timing, right? So if someone just put in a brand new septic system, they're not going to be interested in paying a connection fee to hook up to the sewer system. So that's always a problem. You usually give people, X number of years to hook on, so they can get some value out of, if they did just, if their system is relatively new, it gives them some chance to, get some value out of that investment. Because we would need to charge a fair amount to recoup those dollars in order to expand the sewer system.
Does the health department have a list of the residences that are along sewer lines that are currently on septic, that if they were to come in and need to upgrade their septic, that they could suggest at that point that they connect to the sewer if they're already on the lines?
Yeah, they would be required to at that point. If there's sewer service by your property, then you have a failed septic system. Public department, the health department will require them to hook on.
Okay,
Most people at that point want to hook on.
sure, yeah.
Yes.
I've heard anecdotally, and I must be hearing incorrectly, that
But I think
there have been times where people have wanted to hook up and
versus-
they haven't been able to.
There was a time when the town was under a moratorium.
Oh, okay.
That was part of the whole stick part on the state's role to get us to do more I&I correction.
So when was that roughly?
That was basically 2000
It was officially lifted
up to, and we just had that consent order removed, what is it, a year ago now?
Yeah, they actually only lifted the moratorium. We're still technically under the consent order. Every
Right,
6-month update, I tell them they need to lift the consent order too, but right now we're not under moratorium. We are under consent order.
yeah. We're
So,
just,
okay, so for high level, there was 20 years roughly that like people couldn't join even if they wanted to? Or,
well, we had a limited ability to connect some people during that time. As we started to make progress, they gave us a limited amount that we could connect.
okay. I guess I wonder, and I'm probably, whatever. out of the loop, but maybe it's a communication marketing thing, right? If stuff has changed recently.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, at this point, the area that's probably under the most discussion about expanding the sewer system is to the LCD to help with some development there.
Is it a matter of a study, or maybe there's been one that's done, but you know, where you kind of similar to the water system, you're sort of mapping out the areas that don't currently have.
Yes, yes, so that was that comprehensive waste management plan, the CWMP.
Okay,
So that looked at all areas of town and identified the areas that would most likely benefit from extended sewer service, and which areas are sort of cost effective to do so based on number of potential new users. So they divided up the town into, I'm forgetting how many, zones or districts, maybe 8 or 10. And did an analysis of each of those areas to see which would make the most sense and how many gallons you would need to allocate to each area. And again, as Chuck indicated, we have that capacity that we could do that.
I mean, it seems like we have a couple of events that have happened here. One is that we've paid dearly to reduce the INI, the capacity of the plant's increased. We've been permitted to add more to it. There might be an argument that says that the people who have funded that should maybe be the first in line, before the LCD, but that's a whole nother dialogue. But if you looked at critical areas around town where in the long run, the town would really benefit from being on the septic system, it seems like the bathhouse and Singing Beach would be a key one. And then I would say, I don't know if there are EPA grants or anything like that, but if you looked at the potential discharge into the harbor and we could get some grant money to expand the system in those vulnerable areas.
Yep.
That just seems like good long-term thinking, but.
Well, it should be sandy soil at the beach, as far as maybe if you just expand the leach field, that's the chronic septic problems might go away. It would be a lot cheaper.
If you extended the sewer out to the bathhouse, you could make it into a year-round facility and you could make money off of it. You could rent it out to a restaurant, you could make a second level, rent it to I mean, there's all sorts of things you could do. And it would make a lot of sense to make it year-round. When you see the number of people on the beach in the winter and there's no bathroom facilities. I mean, it's.
But again, just upgrading the leach field would do the same. You could still do that. You might not to the scale that you're talking.
But you have a number of houses along Beach Street that also connect into the sewer to pay for the extension.
They're all 2-acre lots. At least,
Well,
yeah.
Singing Beach Club is probably pretty high usage.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
And if it's only 100, 200 grand, that seems like short money to get that done.
Another capital plan thing.
Yeah.
That I had, would it be, I know there was talk about providing tax incentives to cell signaling or whatever. In lieu of doing that, would we be better off if we use some of our grant ability to upgrade the electric to that area as a town? For the whole district, rather than have them do it and then give them tax subsidies? Would we be able to parlay some grant abilities to upgrade the electric? Or whatever, just. That was an idea I had on capital plans.
Right. So certainly for water and sewer, that is pretty typical. So there are the Mass Work grants available for municipal utilities like water and sewer. Electric is a little more problematic because of it being a private utility. Not out of the question, it's something that could be explored, but more easily done on water and sewer.
I know there's gonna be a lot of federal money going into electricity in the next 10 years, just to
Yeah,
get
no, that's
charging stations everywhere, but
right.
there should be a lot of grant money out there for upgrading electric, and I thought that might be a better way. Just an idea to consider.
Yeah, I mean, the electric problem is bigger than us. It's really all of Cape Ann.
Yeah, I know. It's
And
the whole
so-
region.
So Senator Tar has secured some state money to start looking at it, and I think down the road, there could well be some additional funds that would help out the region on the electric grid.
Thank you.
Okay,
Maybe I should just mention that we could do, I think my number is all right, a couple $100,000 for a pump station and whatnot. If we're going down Beach Street, we're probably replacing the water main, we're probably replacing all the drainage, and then the roadway, so like, the actual bottom line will be bigger than that, but just the sewer part of it.
If you're off by 2x or 3x, I mean, if you look at the assets of the town, people think of Manchester, it's the harbor and the beach. And anything that creates a vulnerability to two of those. Collectively, long-term thinking, we should be talking about it, I think. That's me.
We're here to work.
Love it.
Sarah, I think Ann Harrison.
anything else?
Ann Harrison, I think, has had her hand up a couple times.
Oh,
Yeah, and I've taken it down a bunch of times. One of the areas that we might move the sewer to, and it's a long way out. But if we're still thinking about Gloucester, it's in the right direction. Is the Raymond Street area, which
Right.
is lower, sandier, and more threatened by rising than even the bathhouse. And to be absolutely blunt, the bathhouse is not built to be a year-round facility. And converting it into something that's heated and insulated, we may as well just, I have a hard time seeing it as a real money maker. So there's Raymond Street, the comprehensive wastewater management treatment plan did say that the LCD was the first choice of places to use additional sewer capacity, with West Manchester being the last. But before we decide to use the capacity in areas that are currently not threatened, I think we have to think about areas where the septic systems are really in danger from rising seawater. That's what I had to say.
Thank you, Ann.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else? You guys are free to leave.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay,
Don't-
anything
Oh, we're gonna have a revote on everything.
Have a good night.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Next item on the agenda is the quarterly report.
Did we need to answer for any capital that we haven't spent? Or are you all set with us for that?
The only thing was the compressor.
I don't spend it by July 1, I'll give it back.
Okay, yeah. Okay, start with revenues.
Yeah.
I have my electronic version up now, so I have the correct information. Since I printed the wrong year off. Right, there are two things up there.
Mhm.
And as I recall, it seemed to me that there were two lines.
well, the first one I saw, the
Yeah.
meals excise could probably go from 60 to 80, judged on, based on the projections.
Right, that was one I saw too, where the meals tax year to date is 47.5. And what are we projecting for this year? Yeah.
$60,000.
It would seem that we could project more.
Is that pretty linear, Andrea, or is it peak in the summer months and less in the winters, or?
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely seasonal.
Mhm. And I will say the past couple of years has fluctuated significantly because of COVID. So that's why I had to drop it down previous years, because when I fill out the tax recap and the estimated receipts, you have to 10% up or down from what you've received actually the previous year. You have to give an explanation. I think you're going to collect what you're estimating.
So there is some seasonal.
So that's why I increased it for FY23. Since we received more in FY22.
I mean, I'm willing to go line by line, but I'd prefer to keep it, again, to sound like a broken record, high level. And, you know, that 2,556, 880, that's the number that gets compared to that, you know, 5-year average that I did. That's more like 2.94, I think. Obviously, it's a, you know, amalgamation of all the different sub pieces. And obviously, one of the biggest ones is the motor vehicle excise, which I'm guessing that's a seasonality, right? We don't get that number till what, February?
Yeah, February, March. They do multiple commitments in the spring, like from January to March, April.
Oh, if you have it, the actual for last year was for full year. I know we have the,
Oh, for the full year. You look at that.
It looks like the fees and fines also, we might be able to bump up. I know the police chief was saying that they've been writing more tickets and stuff, so it's showing here.
Yeah, but so go back to the meals tax. For 2024, you've dropped it down to 40,000.
That's probably because I did this before I did the tax recap. Like I did the budget before I did the tax recap.
So can we look at increasing that back to 60?
Absolutely, yes.
So, and maybe to Mike's point, you know, the idea, you know, going line by line versus kind of big picture and, you know, relative to what you were just saying, Andrea, is it worth, not necessarily right here, but you would kind of go back through this and adjust things? Or
Mhm.
do you think there's enough there to kind of reconcile that 400,000 or so difference that Mike was referencing? Maybe not all,
Right,
but being, you know, a little, getting a little closer.
yes, I could put something together.
like my only takeaway looking at actuals of fiscal year to date versus, you know, last fiscal year is that we're up, what is that, 160 grand, right? 1.3 compared to 1138, right?
Mhm.
That's my one takeaway, right? Up 160 grand. But the problem is there's so much seasonality in all these things, especially the excise tax that, you know, like you said, we don't know it till February, March. And
Right.
And licenses and permits, I would think would be variable. There's a big delta there, but I don't,
That's mostly new construction, isn't it? New growth.
Permits, yeah.
Not necessarily. It's a lot of renovations.
What are licenses?
Okay.
Those like marriage licenses and that sort of thing?
So
It's
again,
all,
Dogs, right? Yeah, I can see that that's variable.
so big picture, you know, yes, we're being conservative to the tune of, you know, 400,000 plus or minus. You know, Finance Committee has consistently said, let's be less conservative in those estimates. it has provided, I think, an important safety valve for the town, and it also has been an opportunity for funding capital in future years. But certainly we could, cut that difference in half, increase local receipts by a couple $100,000. I wouldn't go to the full 2.9 or 3.0. Just because there are variables, and if those numbers don't come in, then we're having to cut.
I just think that we have a very tight budget this year. And the extent to which we can sharpen our pencil on the revenue projections, it would help.
Exactly. Let's specifically with regards to the schools, right? I mean, if the schools is gonna need, I don't know, 200 grand more or 300 grand more, whatever, above and beyond what we otherwise would have expected. And we can quote unquote get that by just raising this estimate to a number that we know is gonna come in anyways. I mean, I don't see the problem.
I wouldn't philosophically have an issue with compromising on,
Right.
not trying to be completely, precise, but, leave ourselves, less buffer than what we currently are.
Mhm.
Right, yes, that's what I was trying to say.
I heard you.
Okay. Should we move on to the expenditures? So in your email, Andrea, you've highlighted some areas where you're expecting reserve fund transfers. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, the first one was the treasurer collector. I think I brought it up a few months ago.
Yeah.
That we had the unexpected maternity leave that we found out about after the budget had already been put in. So that we had a temporary intern that came in from September to December. So I waited until I had the hard number in order to send that to you. So, which I have now, which I put in the email. And then the second one was the ZBA salaries. We're almost at 100% expended so far. So it'd be helpful to have some input as to, is that going to be consistent? Should we, budget another 8,000 for that to get through the end of the fiscal year? Do you expect that many meetings, or do you think it's going to slow down? Or
Well, we have a meeting every month.
Right, but it was driven by the 40B.
Right, I think we have to look at what expenditures, I thought that the expenditures for 40B were being separately tagged.
We've tracked them.
Yeah, second, so is it possible to look at that and see what amount of those ZBA salaries were due to the 40B? So we can see for the normal ZBA business, whether there's an issue or not. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, yes, we can do that more detailed analysis. My sense is, I don't think we need another 8 because that would replicate what we just did. I would think an extra 4 would probably cover us, but we can do a little more detailed calculation.
Yeah, I think the challenge we have is with the recording of all of the meetings. It takes 2 or 3 times as long to do minutes than to be able to do it just off of the notes that were kept at the meeting. And when you have 2-3 hour meetings, that's a lot, and I think it's an issue. But
Yeah.
the town's made the decision to record all the meetings. So.
So we can, let us put a little more detailed
Yeah.
number crunching on that.
Public safety. OT.
Can I ask one about insurance
Yes,
on the group health? Is that actual number? Is that truly, 6 months of actual?
It's a great question. Let me look really quick.
Andrea, in our property liability insurance, is there a component for flood insurance included in that? Or are we not insured for flood on the town buildings?
We, I think they're like we are, but there's caveats and exceptions to it. I can send you the excerpt from the policy if you'd like to see it.
Yeah, it was just a question of with given sea level rise, are we seeing an increase in the cost due to flooding potential? Or are they not really looking at that?
They look at more of the FEMA zones, like the zone A, like a lot of our buildings are in zone A. So we do have a little costs associated with that.
Okay.
I'm just curious about the Social Security and Medicare. Looks like there's a variance there. And isn't that pretty predictable? I mean, you sort of, or is it driven by the OT?
It's driven by the OT, and then we had like, our health director, I had not put that salary in as either. Not whether I can charge that to the grant or not. So that's why it's a little off. I just want to watch it.
I know this may, I'm just looking at fire OT. Maybe we'll get to that in a week or so, but that just, we get to the end of the year and we find ourselves in the place we were last year doing a reserve fund transfer. And, promises were made and not kept and, all that stuff.
I know.
It's just-
Right, so the problem is, a long-term injury. And then 2 retirements and the new hires aren't fully trained.
Mhm.
So that's what's been driving that extra overtime.
But shouldn't have that been offset by the floater or no?
That's what we thought.
I thought that's what we were told.
The floaters cover the leave, the known leave time. But when you have unexpected leave time because of someone out on long-term injury, and then when you hire new people and they aren't fully trained and can't fully cover the shift, that's when things go off the rail.
So in other words, to say what you just said, even though this looks bad and over budget, if we didn't have the floater, it would look even tragically worse.
Yes, that is true.
Okay. That sounds great.
So I guess the question is, and I brought this up and labeled it as a denominator problem. If you've tried to maintain a staff of X number of people and certain people are out and certain people are sick, then maybe the staff drops down to 0.95 or 0.8x for a shift or 2 or 3, as opposed to we always need to keep it at that level. Is there any sensitivity on that, or are we just basically funding it 3 on or whatever the number is and not changing staffing when we have vacancies for shifts?
So it's been a combination. So they have stopped forcing people to do the 3rd, but if there's a volunteer to do that, to be the 3rd, that's what they have done. Because if you have that, for example, if you have a motor accident on 128, they run the ambulance and they run the engine. So you have to have 3 people to do that.
So they call one in on overtime to look at the
Right.
at the fire station.
And I presume if it's volunteer participation, it's at overtime. So,
Yes, yes, it is.
so it becomes a pretty opportunistic thing.
And that's standard operating procedure amongst typical fire departments, I assume, that they all roll an engine and an ambulance to a
If
traffic.
If it's a serious motor accident, yes.
Okay.
Motor vehicle accident.
It seems like, I'm guessing a police car is gonna go to that regardless, right?
Yes, and they're
I mean, it
doing
seems
other
like
things.
a
They're
police
doing
car
other,
and the ambulance would be fine, but.
so I would recommend, this sort of feeds into something I mentioned to Sarah in an email, that I think we will need a more in-depth discussion about staffing. And I know that you're slated to do that on the 9th of February, to take up public safety again. And I don't know if people's schedules would allow, but I think we're going to need some extra time to allow some further vetting of different options. So I didn't know if it would be possible to meet, either a half hour or an hour earlier in order for us to really get into these kind of details.
I think it's very important. I would,
So we can meet like at 6?
sure.
Yeah, sounds like we can.
I think this is really important.
Yeah, again, I would have both chiefs in and just really get into the nitty gritty here, non-staffing and what's needed, what's possible, what's necessary, all of the above.
But just to follow up on Maury's point, and maybe this is, I don't know, a question for the chiefs, but to Maury's point about, if A, B, and C happen, then you just have to drop down to, 0.9 or 0.85 of what you otherwise normally, ideally, is
Right,
that,
so in public safety, there's a real pushback for doing that because of safety concerns of those left on duty. So in police, it's, always having 2 officers on duty, not dropping down to 1. In fire, they want 4 on, so they don't want to go to 2 on.
but we went from 2 to 3 just how many years ago?
Quite a few. I mean, it's been a good 10+ years.
So let's hold this conversation until February 9th, because I think we can spend hours on it here.
Right. I would agree.
Becky Jakes, you had your hand raised. Do you still wish to speak?
I did have my hand raised. I just wanted to, I had written that this was going to be on the 9th, the joint FinCom Select Board meeting. Is it, or is it just partially?
It's up to you.
I think it'd be good to have the select board there, just so that people don't have to keep repeating themselves, for one thing. And additionally, so that we can be as much of one collective mind as possible. If you all are amenable to that.
Is everyone agreeable to that?
Yep.
Yeah, Greg, in anticipation of this meeting on the 9th, I know that the chiefs have put together a couple of scenarios with regard to extra staff, but they haven't put together enough scenarios. I think from the conversation here, you can see, what if you add 1, what if you add 2, how does that affect overtime and coverage of either the standard coverage they've got now or different ways. So if they could put together a couple of more scenarios, I think that would be helpful, so that everyone involved could say, oh, if you add 1, this is what happens. If you
Right.
add 2, this is what happens.
Yeah, no, I agree, John, and I'm talking to both chiefs about that.
Okay, that's important.
I would also highlight, Greg, I know we talked last meeting or 2 meetings ago, could we put those scenarios on the multi-year model? Because in some cases, what happens next year amplifies as you go 2 or 3 years out. And I think this discussion about staffing is actually a multi-year
Right,
dialogue, not just a 1-year dialogue.
yep, no, understood.
And I think the other thing is there's conversations about maybe police being able to be called firefighters. And if so, the question would be, over how many years do you spread that out to bring everyone up on training? You know, you don't necessarily have to do it in year one, but how would you structure that? And what would the training cost be?
Right, right.
It seems like a nice option, but at the moment, we're also just generally hearing about the difficulty in, being able to hire policemen.
But I think Greg's idea is a really good one. And if you offer a job opportunity to somebody who can be a policeman in 4 different towns, and in Manchester, they could be a policeman and do fire. There's a certain, I'm sure there's a certain clientele out there that would rise to that occasion, you know?
Well, if they're into it, sure, yeah.
And
Nothing else.
my understanding on hiring police officers from, what was it, last week's presentation was that we have, I think, 2 or 3 kind of, solid candidates there, right? Like waiting in the wings.
Reserve officers.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. They're reserves, and we almost need to act quickly, or else they probably will go somewhere else, right?
Right, it's my understanding at the select board meeting Monday night, Tuesday night, whatever night that would have been this week, that I believe that they did approve the police chief to offer a full-time position to a current reserve.
Yeah.
Seems smart.
Yeah,
I-
because he was gonna go to Rowley.
Generally, the
Yeah.
conversations with the police over the last few years have been a lot easier to navigate just because there isn't this like hard
Well,
concrete wall of, 4 or none, kind of, and that's, we spend most of our time, pushing against that hard wall, trying to get, some,
chinks.
yeah, some, some neutral ground with the fire chief. And
Right, so Andy, 100% agreed, and I would add to further to that, it's a lot of it is the call volunteer thing, where, there's this narrative that like it's literally impossible, to get any call volunteers, and yet you look at even the slide that was presented to us last week, and a lot of these towns that we're getting compared to, like even a Linfield, a Middleton, they all have some, right? It's not just Essex that 100%. Linfield's got a mix, Ipswich got a mix, Middleton got a mix, like.
I think also, if you look at the 2 and the benchmarking, the police is pretty consistent across different towns. The benchmarks all look the same. The fire, we're in a philosophical discussion about, do we want to be a small version of like Boston or a large metropolitan area? And if you look at the chief's presentation from 2 things ago, you go down, there are career departments, there are combination departments, and then there are call departments.
Yeah.
And the people who were career departments were big, Beverly, Boston, whatever. We were the only ones with a teeny population in that. So where I'm rambling on in this is it's more of a philosophical, where do we want to be in that scale? And
yeah,
as I see it, I'm maybe oversimplifying it, but police seems fairly straightforward with some hiring issues because of the labor pool. Fire is a different beast.
right. And I guess, for the last several years, we've been kind of pushing on a rope when it comes to talking about call firefighters, because we're being told that
Can't do it.
it's not possible. And again, no middle ground, there's no evidence that there's been any effort, in that direction. We're just being told that it's too big a hill to climb.
Right.
So that's fine. We either accept that and go on, or we try to do something different.
I think it's even worse than that. We make recommendations. I think the Board of Selectmen makes recommendations, and then we get to the last 2 weeks of the budget year and we're making huge, reserve fund transfers because the management isn't following the guidelines. So it's even more abrupt. And I think we're talking about here.
Yeah.
But that's,
Yeah.
one
Okay.
person's observation.
I only bring some of that up because I have no interest in tracing over that old ground.
I agree.
You know, I would simply like for us to focus our time and attention on, you know, where we're likely to end up. You know, are we really entertaining an additional staff
Mhm.
or no?
So I agree with that, Andy. And again, you know, if there's other towns that look and smell like us that have a successful mix, then, you know, I don't get why we can't, you know, be able to get there, you know?
And the select board hasn't taken up the question of additional staff for fire department.
Preliminarily, yes, we
Yeah.
have.
Okay.
which is
May
why-
I make a suggestion?
Go ahead, Becky.
There, a lot of what you all are talking about, and passing around as ideas are ones that have been discussed in other meetings. The shortage of safety personnel is nationwide, and it's both police and fire. But to save a little time, if I could recommend that this just go to the 9th, because there, a lot of what you're asking can be answered at that time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Should we move on? Are there any more, any other questions on this quarterly report?
I just had the one follow-up with Andrew. Were you able to answer that question on the group health? Is that 6 months of actual?
It is 6 months of actual.
Okay. And what do we have for total year for next year?
I think we put it up 8%.
Yeah.
If so, I have it right here.
So call it close to 1.4.
Yeah, basically 1.4.
1435. So you're okay with that, Mike?
I guess it just seems like another area we're gonna come in low. Right, because 600, it's not 582 times 2 is what, under 1.2.
It'll depend in part on what you decide on staffing.
Right.
Agreed to some extent, but that's still a big gap to bridge. I can probably use what, 20 grand as a just ballpark?
Yeah,
Annual out, right?
yeah.
I mean, annual, yeah.
For each employee, yeah.
We're not gonna, I'm pretty sure we're not gonna add 10 employees, right?
Right, no, you're right. There's probably some room there.
Let's discuss that when we get to the town budget, okay?
That's fine.
Okay, thanks. Anything else in the quarterly report? I guess I don't understand. This is what I got to before is I still don't understand, unless it's from irrigation, why water's running so high and sewer is running so low.
For the water revenues.
Sorry. Yeah, sewer and water revenues.
Yeah, but
Sewer,
that's the one thing that like, into. So I did ask him about that, because it could be irrigation, it could be the higher users at the higher rates.
okay,
For the tiers.
because sewer is only at 39%. It looks like our sewer revenues are in trouble.
We'll keep an eye on it. I mean, it trends from the previous year, 40% to 39%.
Isn't this also a billing timing issue?
We've-
So you do it quarterly, bills are out, but
We've collected 2 bills in this fiscal. July and October. Right? They bill quarterly.
Right.
And I swear the last sewer and water I paid was in October.
Right, so that was issued in August.
Right. And so there's
Um,
2 more yet to be paid in this fiscal.
I think Andrea answered it when she just, it's like a seasonality, because at this time last year it was 40%, now we're 39. I mean, it's basically.
Yeah,
the
but the
same thing.
October bill picked up all of the irrigation. Oh,
Just
that
like-
was billed in August?
Right, so I think that was for
Okay,
March, April, and May, and then July, August, September goes out, something like that. I don't know, I can get the schedule of what the months are for the billing.
There's
I
clearly a
got you.
seasonality, right? I mean, it was 40% this time last year, it's 39. It's basically the same. I mean,
and I don't remember where we came in last year, at the end of the year. Okay. So we good on the quarterly report? Any more questions?
Good.
Okay. Now, Greg, it looks like we received some type of a grant for the Reed Park expansion.
Yeah, so that's the first half, a little more than half. And Brian is optimistic that the rest of the funding will come through in a second grant. So that's for extending the existing Reed docks out towards the drawbridge along the railroad berm. And to allow, expand for the more transient hookups.
So I thought we had a problem with too many transient boaters around. Why are we trying to attract more?
We approved this. We approved him applying for this grant.
Yeah, so the last time you talked about it, you had said, you didn't want to go the other direction, you didn't want to go towards
We,
Masco Park, but you did give a green light, though you had this discussion, but you did give a green light to proceed.
we didn't approve for the commercial fisherman piece.
Right.
Becky, did you have something you wanted to add?
Well, I most usually do, but with this, it's just that the transient is, I'm curious, Dean, if you're differentiating between day transient or overnight transient, because the dock transient is,
I don't want to get into this conversation. We already approved this project. I
okay.
don't think we need to rehash it again. Okay, thank you. What other grants are we working on, Greg, for what projects? Anything?
So we still may be pursuing some additional grants for the Central Street culvert.
Yep.
We did inquire about funding for support on the MBTA zoning. And also some additional emergency preparedness work. More work on how we would respond to a major event, stronger sheltering plans and evacuation plans and education of the public. Let's see, there's the other two, I think about the we did receive funding to look at an off-season special event to try to beef up some economic activity in the village. And also there was a technical assistance grant for what's called placemaking, how to make the public spaces in the village area more attractive. With also some better signage for parking and directions and that sort of thing. Relatively small effort. It's a $25,000 grant.
Is the MBTA zoning one from the state?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Is the MBTA zoning grant one from the state? DHCD?
So it's the one we've inquired about is technical assistance grant for mapping and analysis that MAPC is offering. And there are some additional ones that the state is offering as well. We have not applied for those yet.
Because just from my experience with the 40B project, it seems that when we get technical assistance from the state on zoning issues that the state wants to implement, they'll only help us if we're positive towards it. Like the grant we had for the person to help with the 40B, he
Right.
wouldn't help us because it wasn't clear that we were going to approve it. And he was only there to get it approved. And I'm concerned that we may not want to apply for grants regarding the MBTA zoning if they're that type of position taken.
Right. So I do show in the capital plan some dollars for village zoning.
Yeah,
So that could be used for that.
yeah, okay.
What is that, capital? Why are we using the capital budget for that?
It's a one-time expense. It's not an operating expense.
Greg, question about the grant for the Central Street Dam. So what's the grant money that's been sort of secured at this point, so to speak? And what do we think the overall bill will be? And if we don't get additional grants, what I'm really curious is what's the kind of capital hit we might be looking at fiscal next year or the year after?
Right. So far, so we have received the FEMA grant of roughly 4.5 million. And we also had a $500,000 small bridge grant from the state. So we've got, and then we do have town money set aside as well. So we have about 5.5 million in the bank, so to speak. The project could go as high as 8 million. And we're waiting to hear on a 1.5 and then an additional grant of 1.5 million. And we just learned of another grant that we can apply for. It's basically, we can use what we've already used for grant submittals and sort of repackage it for another opportunity that could be in the similar 1.5 range.
That's helpful to know. I mean, I think given some of the convergence of some of these numbers we've been talking about with other projects and school and stuff like that, understanding where this is going is important. We
Yes.
could have an interesting year or two or three ahead of us here. So.
Question, Greg, any of these grants subject to matching funds at all, or is it all straight on?
Well, you can use one grant as a matching grant for another.
Oh, all right.
Sometimes it doesn't always work out that way, but we're in pretty good shape in terms of those matching dollars that are needed. But back to Maury's point, it is a priority project, and if we have to forego something else in the capital plan to get to the finish line on the Central Street project, that's what we'll have to do. It's one of those things that definitely keeps me up at night thinking about that dam and bridge and not making it. We're on borrowed time. It's time to get it done.
I don't want to be the car that goes in.
Exactly. I
Or
don't
the
want to-
pedestrians.
You don't want to be on the front of the globe on this one.
Any other financial matters, Greg, that you need to bring to our attention?
No, I can't think of, as I sit here, I think we've got everything covered.
Okay.
Like I say, I think we need a very robust and detailed discussion on staffing for public safety. It's to me, it's one of the bigger challenges, and the school remains a question mark.
Yeah, do you have an update on the school, Maureen?
Met this week. I think we'll hear from Pam and Avi a good amount of information next week. And then probably more by the time the budget's pinned down with the school committee and all that. One just kind of high level thing is we've been talking about Essex Elementary being out further, like when OPEB drops off in school for the debt service for the high school falls off, which has been around 2030. That seems to be potentially moving back and could be 2 or 3 years out. So where we're lining up on this may be that by like 2000, Greg, correct me, but maybe 2027, 2026, we might be in front of voters about a building project for Essex Elementary. We're also talking about a revenue correction for the school coming this year. And there's a lot of stuff kind of coming onto the plate. So the timing of this is a little up in the air. So that's
Maury, what's a revenue correction? Sorry.
so, well, I'm sorry, that's sort of, I'm sorry to use a euphemism. I don't like them. But so the school has been theoretically been dipping into their reserves to fund their operating and sort of maintain what they call level services.
Okay.
And
That was your slang for them dipping into reserves, basically.
basically, yeah. So I know I had an action from our last meeting to get the reserve numbers. I think Peter Twining asked about that. I was sitting with Avi, forgot to ask him for that. I poured around the site and I've left an email for him to try to get what their reserve numbers were for the last couple of years. I don't know, Greg, if you know that off the top of your head, they call it something different. And I wasn't able to kind of calculate it out. So I just asked Avi for the numbers, but
I have it for 2 years. I put it in the FinCom
it
report.
was in the report, yeah.
Yeah,
Right, that excess and deficiency line.
It's right. Yep.
And so a concern that they have as they look towards the Essex project, they don't want to be having a zero reserve as they go out to bond, because they'll most likely get a worse rate on the borrowed money. So they are dropping a fair amount of debt this going into next year. And so one option, instead of tapping that reserve heavily for the fields, would be to do a new debt exclusion, but the total debt exclusion would not increase. It would remain, it would still come down some, but not as much as it originally was going to, as excluded taxation. But anyways, these are things that you'll get into detail next week.
okay.
So just next week, are we gonna know the number, quote unquote, or no?
I think they'll present you a number, yes.
It might not be final
Right.
because they haven't voted on it yet.
I think
No, I don't-
final
My
numbers.
understanding is historically that number, although not final, does not change dramatically from right then until when it's final.
We're meeting with them earlier than we have in the past. They haven't, the schools, we're meeting with them before the school committee votes.
And just end of the day, I don't know who's best to pass this on to Avi, but I would be heavily interested in just looking at historical, again, whatever phrase they use, free cash reserve balances for the past few years.
We're trying to get a hold of that, Mike, or ideally the last 3 or 4 years would be the plan.
I mean, it can't be a hard number to obtain, is it? For Avi?
No, he's got it. Yeah, he's got it.
It's audited, basically, or it falls out of audited info.
Greg, do we have a right as a finance committee of Manchester to ask for specific financial reports from the school district?
Yes, you do.
Greg, I don't know.
Go ahead,
Greg?
Mike.
Yeah. Just a real quick one, and okay, if you don't, do you know what Essex is rated? Obviously, I know Manchester's AAA. Do you know what Essex is?
Oh, Andrew sent that to us.
Yeah, I don't have that in my head.
No, Andrea sent that to us last week, right?
I can look it up really quick.
Are they? I'm gonna guess they're AA.
They're, as of 2021, they're AA plus.
But yeah,
Okay. I mean, this is more questioning for obviously Pam and Avi, but to what you just said, Greg, about, you know, them wanting or needing cash in their bank when they issue bonds, I don't know. I just really question that, given that the way it works, right, is town of Essex, town of Manchester funds them, and right, so if we're AAA, Essex is AA plus. I mean, that's actually much more relevant, you know, than how much cash they have in their bank account when they issue bonds,
yeah, fair point.
right? Like we fund them, you know, I mean, that's
Right.
Ann Harrison, you have your hand raised?
Yeah, at the meeting, God, it feels like this morning, but, they checked with their bond, counsel and mentioned that they were about to reduce their reserves substantially to pay for the 2 fields, or field and a half. And the response was, oh, I'm glad you told me that. That's going to make a difference. So they are getting advice from professionals that this is a significant consideration.
well, this is my wheelhouse, issuing bonds. So I'd be very interested to talk with whoever they're talking to, because that sounds a little suspect.
Okay, thank you both. Updates from any other liaisons?
We'll see what the CPC has at our scheduled meeting on the 9th.
Yeah, I'm wondering if we can change that to the 2nd.
Might not be a bad idea.
Okay. Okay, thanks. Any minutes to review? I didn't review any.
I looked at them.
I thought they looked fine,
You
but
think they're fine?
I did too.
Do I have a motion? Which minutes were those?
1.5 and 1.12. Yeah,
1.5
I
and
didn't see the 12th. I just saw it there.
they were both.
There's 12:15 and 1:5.
I think Gail sent some edits to one of them. And then the other one was part of the original 2 in the message.
I just took them later, okay.
Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from 12:15 and 1:5?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Take a roll call vote. Mike?
I'll abstain. I didn't review them.
Dean?
Yeah, I didn't review the 12th, so I'll abstain too.
So are you?
I didn't look at it. We know this is going. I'll approve, but
Andy?
I'll approve also.
I'll have to abstain because I didn't look at them.
All right.
minority.
Sorry.
So is that?
I was
is
in an
that-
HAC meeting this morning for an hour and a half.
Maybe excuses.
2 hours
So
almost.
just mechanically, what happens there? Do we have to have a majority vote for that, or does it go back to next meeting?
Yeah, next meeting we'll have to vote on. Yeah,
Okay.
we need a majority. Yeah. So the next meeting is the Manchester Essex School District meeting starting at 7 on the 26th. Then on the, where's my little cheat sheet? Right here. The 2nd is. Oh.
Second's town.
Second is CPC in town. The 9th is public safety, staffing and budgets. And the next page of my cheat sheet's missing.
It's the Board of Health and Library. On,
And Parks and Rec.
Park and Rec, yeah.
yep,
And what's after that, Gail?
back to the school on the last day in,
February.
3rd, February 23rd.
yeah, that's it. Thank you. Back to the school for the last meeting.
School and any wrap up.
Right, we won't be meeting with the school committee, we'll just be approving it. And then I think on the 20, that day, we're also gonna have to finalize the capital budget.
Right.
Right? Because we're running out of time, is that right? Is that the last day we have, or can we go the next week?
No, you really need to, wrap it up then.
Okay.
So then on the first, well, the 2nd of March, I think I got that right. I'm hoping you can wrap up your report.
I did see that email.
Yes.
Capital always goes very late because we're right down to, it's kind of like the last little things. We have to meet with every committee in order to really do it, so.
Well, and I had hoped that we could vote on the capital with the operating budgets, but I think that we haven't finalized the operating budgets yet, so if we have to increase the operating budgets, then we're gonna have to maybe cut back on capital, so that's kind of the challenge, because we haven't seen the impact of that public safety staffing stuff, and I think we have to talk about the building inspector staffing and the planning department staffing. I think we haven't discussed those, and we hope to discuss those next week
Next week, yeah.
standpoint, yeah.
And the other thing, if we decide to up the CPC percentage a little bit, I think it should come out of the 2.5% of the main budget, because it's still a tax increase. But something on that line, that there should be less pressure on the 2.5 plus a CPC. If we don't do CPC, then we could go, but it's all a tax.
And I don't think that's on the table for this year's budget.
It isn't on the table.
No,
Okay.
no.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So then-
Yeah. Anything else people want to raise that wasn't anticipated by the chair? I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Lori seconds. Roll call vote. Mike,
Yes.
Dean, Maureen,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
and Sarah votes yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you all for your work. It's very appreciated.
Right back at you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Agreed.
night.
Thank you very much. Good night.
Good night. Oh, I gotta shut this off. I got a job to do, you guys.
See, the electricity, keep our